Excuse me, Lieutenant. Where's the rest of them?
Bird bath.
Did you say the bird bath?
Bird bath.
What's that clicking noise?
That's my candy.
All right, so I have started recording. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to the Loose Butthole Reviews. I am your host, Smokey, and joining with me, as always, is my co-host, Spooge.
Hello.
Oh, and joining with me is our fellow co-hosts, Murda and Starfish.
Hello.
Hi, it's me, the fish, the star. I got it all.
Hey, and before we get into the review, we have 3 rules. Our first rule is our rating must be a fraction of 5. 1 out of 5 being we hate it. 5 out of 5 means we love it. Rule number 2 is if we want our money back, we get a good old Jeff Goldblum rating. And number 3 is if we all agree that it deserves it, then it will get a God tier, a 6 out of 5. And today we are reviewing Lawnmower Man from 1992.
Lawnmower Man's in your head now, Jake.
The Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to have a hard time rating this. I still don't know what my rating is going to be.
I'm in the same...
we're all going to figure it out together what my rating will be.
Look, I'm going to have to figure out my rating, so I'm in the same boat as you. And unfortunately, I'm not the one to be driving.
Well, so if we want to go directly into the plot of this movie, I will be reading it directly from Wikipedia. So credit where credit's due. I'm not trying to take credit for that.
You're gonna learn
Wiki.
real fast. You're gonna learn fast.
Hey, I needed help. Breaking down the plot of this movie. This was a tough one to start on for plot breakdowns.
It's just
definitely.
I can guarantee this Wikipedia article is going to be a nightmare to get through Grammarly. It's going to suck.
Blame Wikipedia and not me. Okay, here we go. Dr. Lawrence Angelo, who is played by Pierce Brosnan, a scientist at the Virtual Space Industries, or VSI, which they say throughout the whole movie, and I didn't know what that meant, runs experiments using psychoactive drugs and virtual reality to enhance cognitive performance, labeled Project 5. Angelo has benevolent aims, but VSI is funded by The Shop, Stephen King shout out, a clandestine group hoping to find military applicants for Angelo's research. None of this was that clearly laid out. One of his test subjects, a chimpanzee named Roscoe, is gifted with... Go ahead.
How is the chimpanzee labeled a military, like... I thought...
We'll get to it because I think that I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like they hadn't really done human trials.
Yes, we're getting to Roscoe
here that come before Roscoe.
Yeah.
One of his test subjects, a chimpanzee named Roscoe, is gifted with new intelligence, warfare training, and increased aggression. He escapes and is killed by the laboratory's security forces.
Yeah, pretty brutally. By the way.
There's 2 different versions.
This is where I will stop the plot and mention that there are 2 versions of this movie. There is the theatrical cut and the director's cut, and we watched the director's cut. It is, I think, 39 more minutes of movie.
Something like
and
that.
This is where our first big difference comes in. So in the theatrical cut, when Roscoe the chimpanzee escapes and is running away, he is quickly killed before he even gets out of the lab. we don't really
Oh,
we don't really see that happen. He just boom,
I kind of
he's
would have
dead.
preferred that then.
The one that we got was a lot more brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
The one we got, he escapes fully, and he actually meets our main character Job, played
Yeah.
by Jeff Fahey. Um, Job is a let's how are we putting this?
Mentally handicapped.
Mentally handicapped,
He's a simple jack.
intellectually
Let's
intellectually disabled.
let's be brutally honest. He's a simple jack.
I've got I got thoughts about Simple Jack later. I think I know
So
the
I know
origin of a few movies coming up here.
I know it's not like used really to like describe this, but I feel like he might just like have Asperger's because like
I don't think so.
there is intelligence. He's just really socially inept.
But he said, I mean, he is definitely low intelligence.
I felt
But
he
he
You didn't
is
had
know
the
a
that
mind of a
savant.
child.
glasses.
He's a savant because he says like I know how to fix every machine pretty much, but he doesn't know how to read. He is of lower intelligence. So I wouldn't say Asperger's, which I also think is not a term that we use anymore, but
It's not.
I don't know if that's
It's not really an appropriate term because people still use it because it just became outdated. It's not a thing anymore technically.
right.
But people
Yeah,
who
some
are
people are
diagnosed with it are still medicated for
Yeah.
it and they still have Asperger's.
Right.
That's what they have had all their lives.
Right. And of course, we can't really diagnose anybody in a 90s movie who's not going to be sensitive about these subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Though-
actor doesn't have.
It's not
any
like
type of
they
physical-
had a determined mental illness. They was just like be like a child, basically.
Yes, simple-minded is what they call him.
Yeah.
Simple good.
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack. But what was I saying? Oh yes, so in the director's cut, Roscoe and Job meet, and that is our first meeting of Job. In the theatrical cut, we actually meet him a lot later, and more randomly. So I actually liked this whole scene a lot better than what they were presenting in the
We wouldn't have
theatrical
got
cut.
Cybo-Man.
Yeah.
I love the Cybo Man. And I really also like how it gives us insight into like Job's like special interest, and like how he relates to people who are way younger than him.
Yes,
It gives him
he
like
really
a point
likes
of contact with them.
he really likes comic books and he really likes machines,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty
Yeah,
great.
he likes.
he does.
He's one of those people that loves taking stuff apart and putting it back together, just to figure out how it works. But they can never tell you how it works.
So, since we have already met Job, this has to be the inspiration for Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder, right?
I mean,
gotta
it seems
be.
like
Also,
it
this-
is.
I
his
mean, the
hair-
overall.
At least the outfit.
His hair, this has to be why 2 years later in Dumb and Dumber, Jeff Daniels had this hair, right?
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems that way to me.
Right? It's
Yeah.
the exact same hair. And this is 2 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
Goddamn.
Oh man, that is great though. I'm glad you made those connections because
I've
would
not
have
done
never.
any research on that. I feel like that has to be a fact.
I mean, it's so close that we can call it a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down with it. There's all like I don't know. He just I don't know if they like did his hair like that to be like, oh, he does like his own hair, or like if I don't, or if like the priest is doing it, or like I don't know
I
necessarily.
think he just doesn't do anything with his hair. What is kind of confused, because obviously why his hair looks like that is because it's in the real world it's bleach fried, but I don't think this man is bleaching his hair in the context
Yeah.
of the movie.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that's a bleach try right there. Believe me, I've had it.
yeah,
Oh,
there is some background concerning that, but we'll get to that later on.
Is somebody bleaching his hair?
someone
Yeah,
they made him bleach his hair. Oh man, that is
yeah. There's well, I mean, we can just talk about it, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
Go
I don't
for
want
it.
to
You
mess
go
up
for
the.
it.
All right, so originally, Job was supposed to be a social outcast, and then he went kind of simple with it, or maybe he was directed that way. But they wanted to go one step further, and they also wanted to give him red hair. So he dyed his hair a bunch of different times and got it like dyed a bunch of different times, trying to get it right, but none of the red that they were able to get into his hair looked very convincing. So they just kind of scrapped it and just like let him have his super
So it
bleached.
really is just a bleach fry.
Yep, it really
oh,
is.
they
Yeah.
bleached his hair so much they fucking killed it. That is terrible, man.
Yep.
I mean,
But
you
Oh, it
know,
grows back.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Jeff
Yeah,
Fahey,
but
the actor,
still,
has
you gotta
great
deal
hair.
with
You know,
that.
this wasn't a lasting damage. I'm sure he shaved it off and grew a great head of hair after this. Because
Yeah, and also something of note too, like as the film goes on and we get deeper into the plot, his hair subtly changes, and becomes different.
oh yes, we haven't gotten to that yet. All right, where was I in the plot? Let's see here,
So he just met
Wikipedia.
he just met Roscoe. Roscoe. Oh
He
yeah,
just got
another
to the
thing too.
Cybo
Sorry.
man.
Roscoe 1138, which I believe is a direct nod to THX 138, which is
What is
some
that?
Star Wars trivia.
Oh,
Nice.
It's just a is 1138 or 138. Any variation of 1, 3, and 8 with other ones involved is a Star Wars nod.
ah.
Nice.
This is also, in the theatrical cut, he gets killed quickly. In this cut, we just see him get lit the fuck up with bullets. It's like
Yeah,
it's in The Godfather. It's
yeah,
awful.
it's pretty rough. Could I set the scene?
Yes.
All right, so we don't really know what's going on. We're from the perspective of this chimp, and he's got all this like gear on and stuff, and he like stole a gun from a security officer. He got shot in the gut on his way out of the building. He finds this like tiny little hut, kind of shack thing, by the church, and that's where he meets Job, and Job, being simple minded and stuff, is like, oh, this is Cybo Man, which is
Because
like,
of his like RoboCop suit.
yeah, this chimp's got this cute little RoboCop suit thing. He's got this little like face mask and chest plate, and like he's wearing gloves, and like he looks really cool. And then uh VSI like, oh, we got to find this chimp. We got to find this chimp. And like they end up all conglomerating onto Job's little shack, and the chimp's like, oh no, I don't have anywhere to go. He's got his like programming in his head that's like, oh, you gotta fight and like all this stuff, and he like tries to fight. Like he doesn't really try to fight because he's like outgunned, and he just like climbs up this tree, and then they just like shoot him like 20 times, and the film goes slow mo, and you just see these bullets just pounding through this like little chimp's body, and it just like falls from the tree, and it's like very upsetting, like out of
They
nowhere.
massacred our boy.
Yeah,
They have to.
it's just unnecessary animal death.
You gotta hate them. You gotta hate the bad guys.
I would have hated
How
them anyways for
how
what
you
they do.
gonna-
I don't need that right at the
This
beginning.
this won't be the last
get-
time someone gets lit the fuck up by bullets that did not deserve it either.
That's true.
Oh yeah, that is true. there is another tragic death.
Yes, also one that is not shown in the theatrical version, but we got in the director's cut. But we'll get there.
Oh.
All right. Angelo decides to recruit intellectually disabled gardener Job Smith as a test subject, so he is replacing Roscoe, telling the man he will become smarter. This scene kind of made me sad because Angelo was like, Job, don't you want to get smarter? Like, wouldn't that make you happy? And Job is just like, I don't know. Like, just
Yeah.
like the way he says
No,
So,
it, like, made me
it
very
wouldn't.
sad.
It won't.
so
It
yeah.
won't
I have a
though.
lot of problems with this.
Mhm.
So like one of the big problems I have is like one, you know, uh, Dr. Angelo, Pierce Brosnan, they meet over the killing of Cybo Man Roscoe 138. Because since all of ESI goes there, that's also where Dr. Angelo goes, and that's like where he meets Job.
Yes, Dr. Angelo was doing his best to not have Roscoe killed.
Yeah, he was, which
I
is good, but then like
I have to say,
later on,
in the defense of the evil military organization, they did program the monkey, the chimp.
to be
My bad.
violent.
I meant they did program him to kill.
The
So,
ape, you mean?
but yeah, the fucking they.
Yeah,
So
no,
they
they did, and
I see it as them getting rid of a nuclear device before it could go nuclear.
so the reason I have a big problem with like Roscoe getting killed in the manner that he did, and even in the theatrical version, if he also gets killed, um, this is supposed to be. I'm assuming like hundreds of $1 million of like special, you know, dark ops R&D stuff. If you know that you're like training chimps to be dangerous like that, which chimps are already super dangerous, but if you know that, like would you really throw away like how would they spend $10 million in 1992 money to like get this chimp to where he is? So like I would like to think that they
Is
would
this in the
in a
military
real
budget?
world setting I would like to think that they
Is
would use tranquilizer
Yeah, why
darts.
didn't they
okay,
just trank
true.
him?
Okay, so in
Um,
my defense, is this going into our military budget? Is this coming out of our military? Are we saying the
Th-
government is funding this? Because
I
the
don't
government,
know.
Well,
I don't know if this
they
is a
w- they
private sector or our
the
government.
if it is the
it's
government will
probably
definitely.
private sector.
If it could be private sector, but I'm assuming the government was involved because of the director. The director seemed more of a CIA guy than a CEO guy, played by Hank from Breaking Bad. I'm jumping the plot a little bit, but fucking if it's a government, they're not gonna want it to be able to get out or anything. So we're lucky they didn't silence the whole fucking town because this was a
It's
secret
true.
project
Well, all
that
we
got
know is
out.
that yeah, all we know is that he the shop is what is funding BSI. So we don't know
Hmm.
if the shop is like, oh, this is the shop where, we research all the stuff that the military will use and it's like private, or if it's like actual government funded, but it's just like dark ops.
It's never
We don't really
explained.
know.
Yeah.
But like going back to where we're currently at in the plot, the biggest problem that I have with, Dr. Angelo essentially uh, you know, conducting experiments like with Job and on Job is that like yes, like Job himself like can't really consent to this. So then Dr. Angelo goes around and like asks what are essentially his two dads like what to do, which is like the priest of the church and the landscaping guy, and those are brothers.
Yes,
And
Terry the long guy is good dad and the priest is bad dad.
yeah, exactly. And I don't like he goes and asks them, and you know, t-
Can I make a
like
correction
Terry.
here? The priest is stepdad that you don't want to be around.
Right. And I
Yeah,
mean, I guess we haven't really mentioned this plot hasn't really mentioned the priest yet, but the priest, I mean, he pretty much raised Job from a kid. It seemed like Job was an orphan or abandoned. It doesn't really say, but he's been raised by this abusive priest.
Catholic priest,
Yes.
and
Who is whipping him
I
as
think
a
they're
grown
making,
man still.
not
Yeah.
only is he whipping him as a grown man, but I think them making him Catholic is supposed to be hinting towards something a little bit
Yeah,
darker.
we'll get to that when we get to
Yeah, we'll
that in
get
the
there.
plot too. um, but yeah, so like the biggest problem I have is that like you can't. There's no real like true grounds for consent to do this. And this is like simultaneously, I think, a really good character flaw for Dr. Angelo, and also kind of bad in terms of like writing, is that like he just doesn't care, like, oh, I can't experiment on on this chimp anymore, like that was my best chimp or whatever, so now I'm just gonna like screw it, I guess I'll just do it to this guy, like he's
I
simple enough,
I will
you know.
say, I mean, Dr. Angelo is our supposed to be our protagonist, but I mean, I I think he simultaneously has good intentions, but also he's very selfish. He wants this research for himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
he
I mean
doesn't
that's why he
want to
keeps it
hurt
private.
Job, like he didn't want to hurt Roscoe and he didn't want Roscoe to be killed, but he's also very selfish. And like he will do this
I
regardless
mean,
of whether
he's
To
definitely
be
he's
honest,
definitely on a mission. Like he believes what he's doing is gonna be the catalyst for like evolving the whole human race in like a exponential like way, you know.
yeah, I
So
don't
and
feel
I think
there
in
was
one
a.
way he could definitely think like that he is improving Job's life too.
yes,
Yeah,
he thinks that.
I want to say
Yeah, he
I don't
thinks that.
think
I
there
think
was
that's
a
a
protagonist.
compartmentalization. Yeah.
I don't think there was a protagonist to this whatsoever.
Not a
I think it
E-
was.
Everybody was
not
I
a
think it was
Hard.
not a
supposed to
true
be
protagonist.
I think it was supposed to be Angelo.
Yeah,
like
it's definitely supposed to be
I
Angelo,
don't know.
but like
Everybody was
that's
just
what I
so
mean is that like
antagonistic in this. Even I know that it was after he gained intelligence, but Job he kind of just leans into the evil. He doesn't like.
Oh,
There is
we'll get
no.
we'll get there too. We'll get there
yeah,
too.
hold up on that. We're not talking about that right now. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean by like Dr. Angelo's like it's simultaneously like from like a critical perspective, I feel like yes, this is a good character flaw and it's realistic, but it also is in my mind too like not realistic at all because like I don't think like as learned as he is like he would actually do this to a person that like can't truly give consent.
I mean, that's kind of
um
a through line through
The
the movie because, I mean, what well, I know we're jumping ahead, but there are multiple times where this man Job cannot give consent because of his state of mind.
right
is
and right and I guess like what I'm saying is that like it's good but also like it I don't know. It's I guess for me myself like I'm just kind of mixed about it because I don't think like that it would necessarily happen. Like it kind of almost paints Dr. Angelo into this like mad scientist role, and
Yeah,
like if
I'd
they're
say
trying to make
that's
him the protagonist, it's like very does not work.
well, I mean, I feel like
true.
this whole movie is pretty dark. I mean, this is a sci-fi first, horror second, I'd say, movie. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
fair.
Angelo is definitely the mad scientist in this. I mean, he's not evil, but he is definitely the mad scientist, or at least
He's the
obsessed.
Frankenstein. His
Yes, he is
monster
the
creation
Frankenstein.
is.
no one
Yeah,
grows from this
I will
movie.
say while I do think Angelo is our protagonist, at no point in the movie did I like him.
right. He's pretty much a piece of garbage.
I didn't like him.
Yeah, he
But
didn't learn. He doesn't learn any lessons. There is
He
no
no,
way
he
he
doesn't.
learns.
no,
We'll
he does
also get
not.
to that. Yeah, he does not. He doesn't learn
Uh,
any lessons. He
but
was
but
shitty to his wife.
yeah, but anyways,
I mean,
sorry for derailing. I
his
had a
wife was
lot of
also shitty,
thoughts.
but I mean, he's not a. I wouldn't say he's a good person.
No,
He
he's
wasn't
not.
likable. I
No,
guess
he
you don't
was
have to
not.
be a character doesn't have to be a good person to be likable to me, but he just wasn't likable at all.
Yeah,
I
that's
also
fair.
don't think Pierce Brosnan's performance was very good.
Yeah,
No.
I
He
mean,
was definitely phoning this
there's
in.
times that
I mean, did you
there's
I don't
see
think
the
Pierce
5 o'clock
Brosnan's a good actor.
shadow?
You know.
I think he was like
What do you
drinking the
say?
whole time. Did
What did Spooge say? Oh, Spooge is on
Oh, you're
mute.
breaking up.
Spooge is on mute. I can hear him talking,
Oh,
but I can't hear him talking.
Yeah, his audio.
Oh no.
Spooge,
Spooge?
unmute.
He's not. I don't think he's
Hey.
actually muted. I think he's just fucking up.
Yeah, I think the audio is.
Well, I don't know why my mute
Spooge, move to a
One
different
second,
room in the
one
house.
Well,
Cyber Christ got him.
while we're waiting for this, oh, the Cyber Christ, yeah. Uh, there are times where I find Pierce Brosnan's acting to be incredibly believable, and then like of those rare glimpses that I get, like the majority of it's just a like, what? Who gave you the direction to do it like that, and why did they go with that? Like that's.
I don't think he had any direction.
I found him making. I found him making a lot of weird choices. Like there's a lot of weird like why would you react in that way, or like why is that your face to this news? Like there's a lot of stuff like that.
I don't know.
For
Brosnan
me.
just didn't sell it to me in this movie.
I think he
Am
was
I
actually
back?
drinking. Yeah, you're back. But I
you're
think
back.
I think Pierce Brosnan was actually drinking, like actively drunk during this whole, because he stammers and stumbles a bit in this.
I mean, I know he's drinking a lot. His character is drinking a lot.
I think that's real alcohol. I
don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we can.
I have to point this out. The 5 o'clock shadow on him is I'm in a drinking binge right now and I'm not shaving. That's the kind of 5 o'clock shadow he had. And that was real.
Yeah.
That was some ugly 5 o'clock shadow.
So
I don't think he's a
also
good actor in general.
Oh, you don't think he's a good
Damn.
actor, Jim?
So also, like up until this point, Pierce Brosnan had really only ever done Remington Steele, which is a 1982 drama with 5 seasons. So like, this was kind of his first like major-ish film to be in.
So when we were watching this, I was kind of wondering, how did we get from here to James Bond? And the funniest bridge that I saw was Mrs. Doubtfire is the year after this movie.
Oh shit!
Where he's a fucking Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah,
I think he's pretty good in that.
yeah.
I think he's a good Bond, but I'm not a huge Bond head. I don't really care that much about James Bond.
Not the best Bond.
I'm not.
Wait, you think he's the best Bond? Is that what you said?
He's not the best Bond, is what I said.
I thought
okay.
he was fine.
I mean, he is James Bond. I mean, he doesn't do James Bond bad. He's not.
Actually,
Right,
I've seen
yeah,
his James
but-
Bond movies. I've just seen other movies with him in it, and he's always bad.
Well,
I was
think-
basing off of Bond because I think Bond is probably his best work, right?
Yeah, yes. And I think one of the reasons for that is that he had like 5 seasons worth of being a main character who is a dashing, mysterious thief named Remington Steele, who's also a private investigator. So like he just adapted, like he knew how to do that well, and like Bond lends itself well to that, I think.
True.
Yeah.
Also,
So-
the directors of Bond know. I've never watched a Bond movie and seemed like the director didn't know what they were doing with the character. Like they usually get good direction in the James Bond
Right.
movies,
Yeah.
and it's
That's true.
quite hard.
But yes,
to
Spooge,
ruin James Bond.
I would encourage you to watch some of his Bond movies and reassess whether you think he's good or not.
I'll be the judge of that.
You
That's
will.
what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I'm telling you.
But anyways, I didn't mean to like derail I didn't mean to derail us this far. I just there's a lot of
while
problems
we are
with
we got
Pierce.
derailed
we'll
because
get
of
back
Spooge
on
as
track,
well.
but
Spooge's
but
audio, I mean.
while we're derailed, so Pierce Brosnan is a very handsome, pretty sexy man. He looks so fucking dumpy in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
He was a dumpy
Thank
man
you.
in this movie.
I don't know what they did to my boy, man.
He's
they fucked him
he's
up.
80s sexy.
Well,
He's 90s.
I can't.
He's
I
90s
can't.
sexy though. He's 90s sexy.
I don't
I
know.
can't even say that because it's because of what he wears. Because like in Remington
No,
Steele,
not
like
in
he wear
in this movie. He's not 90s sexy. I'm just saying he is a 90s sexy man, and now he's like a distinguished, handsome older man. But like in this movie, they dumped him up with the ill-fitting khakis.
yeah.
He has two outfits in this movie. He's got the baggy khaki shorts that are a weird length, and he's
Yeah,
got
they're not quite capris.
baggy long khakis with like ill-fitting dumpy polos.
Yeah. And he's always that's all he wears in the
Although
entire
he
film.
is shirtless a lot in this movie.
They
Yeah.
tried. They tried, but
They tried.
There's a lot of shirtless
See,
in this movie
he
for
had-
the type of
see,
movie
this
that
is
it
the thing.
is.
He
Yeah,
had an
it's true.
alcohol. This is something to bring up. He had an alcohol gut.
I didn't see any. I wouldn't say he's got a gut, but
He
then
had an alcohol gut.
then
in
we
this.
we've
His
got
gut,
shirtless.
His gut was not the same as in James
We've got
Bond.
shirtless Simple Jack in this movie, and like he's cut, you know.
That
So-
they should not have done that. That makes no sense whatsoever.
I think
To
it
show
makes a
him
lot
like
of
that.
sense. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Maybe it's just
We'll-
me,
we'll get-
but
when we-
I was a little uncomfortable seeing Job naked, and not naked, but
when
shirtless.
he is in his childlike form, yes.
When we
He
get
had a
to
little
that
bit of
scene,
training.
I'll explain why I think it's appropriate.
He is not always childlike as we go on in the movie, though. He does
Yeah.
not remain childlike. But yeah, I mean,
All
seeing-
because of
seeing-
Dr. Angelo's experiments.
yes. Okay, I guess that's a cue to get back to it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Trying to see where I was at. Okay. So Angelo has met Job and recruited him as his new test subject. Angelo redesigns the intelligence boosting treatments to remove the aggression factors. And the movie did this by making sure we knew the red drugs were the bad and the blue were the good.
Yes. Blue drug good.
Not
We're getting
only
political.
Hey, that's why Facebook's blue.
What's the pill they
We're-
give in
we're
the
not going-
Matrix?
we're not
What's
going
the
there.
pill that they give in the Matrix, though? What's the pill you take
Yeah,
to get out of the Matrix?
Oh,
is
it's
it
red.
red?
It's a red.
Exactly. Oh, y'all all are falling for it. Y'all all
I don't
want to.
I don't want to be red pilled, man.
I want to be in the
I don't know what
Matrix.
to tell you.
I want to.
Black pill
We're
is
just
the way.
derailing again, but I want to. I want to know that I'm in the Matrix, but like remain in it. Like that dude who was like eating steaks and shit. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen the
Okay,
Matrix.
yeah, I get you on that part. I get you
I
on
haven't seen the Matrix in a long time. Okay.
that. Hey,
I
you
like
were right,
that's
though.
the scene
There
that
is
you
a-
remembered.
there
That's
is
good.
a scene.
That's good. The steak scene. He just all he eats is steaks. He just has steaks always.
I mean, like, couldn't you just like go fly around and do crazy shit?
If you're the one, yeah.
If you're aware, now
If you're
you
the
can,
one.
that-
If you're
That's
the
what
one,
I'm
you
saying.
can
I
fly.
want to be
you
If you're the
didn't
one,
watch
you can fly.
Resurrection. You haven't watched Resurrection, have you?
I want to be
I've
aware
seen all
that
3
I'm.
films, bud.
There's
You
no
haven't seen
fourth.
the fourth one. You haven't seen
Oh.
the fourth one.
I guess
No, you don't
I
need the
guess
4th
5.
one.
5 though, because Animatrix,
It's-
right?
Oh yeah,
I have
Animatrix
seen the
is-
Animatrix.
yeah, I've seen
I've
the.
seen that.
Okay, so yeah, I've seen all 5. The 4th one, they retcon it. You don't have to be the one to fly around and shit. You just have to be special.
That is, you know what I think about that? That's some booty.
No, that's not exactly true.
That's
because,
some
Neo-
stank
uh,
booty.
Neo lost he wasn't the one anymore. That's why he couldn't fly.
It-
That dude who was eating
They-
steaks wasn't the
They
one.
remember fucking
No, he
what's her
wasn't,
name?
so he
This is
couldn't
spoiler
fly.
alert. Spoiler alert! A girl transfers over the oneness to him, and they share the oneness, and they fly off at the end. Whoa!
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
we're
that's cool.
getting too off. Though if I had a choice, I'd like to know I was in the Matrix, but remain in it. How about that?
Yeah.
Fair.
Okay. All right. Not only is Job's intelligence enhanced, but he also develops psychokinesis and telepathy. Very Stephen King as well, even though this movie, we'll talk about it, has nothing to do with Stephen King. He continues training at the lab until an accident forces Angelo to abort the experiment. Does anyone remember what that accident was?
Wait.
Because I don't.
Yeah. Yes, I do. So right now, like, so what's happened, is that like he's doing all these experiments. He's slowly like becoming smarter, just like on his home like computer, like on Dr. Angelo's home computer and his
Hmm.
home VR system, because VR is a huge part of this. Like, he has to take the medication, and then he also has to go into VR. And they get to a point to where Job can no like he's not going to benefit as much or like at all from continuing that. So he needs like the actual gyroscopic like suits that they have for VR to actually increase his intelligence even more.
Right, which
Um,
this plot synopsis has not mentioned the gyroscope suits. I think we are the first scene of the movie, we are introduced to this chimpanzee flying around being ragdolled in this gyroscope
oh yeah,
while
that's yeah,
like in the virtual reality world.
Yes,
yeah, that's
that
what
And
we
is what
open
we.
up on.
That is.
yes, that's what we open up on.
Yeah.
And then once that is before Angelo goes back to the lab with Job, he is doing experiments in his own basement with virtual reality.
Yeah, and he's
Also
slowly
with the
become.
neighbor kid for some reason.
Yeah, and that's why so at first, when they first start doing the experiments, it's like Job and the kid go into the VR thing, and Job's having a hard time keeping up with the kid. The kid's like way better at him with this like flying game, which I guess is an intelligence test. I don't know exactly how that works, but that's kind of what we're
What
given.
was the kid's name?
Um,
Was it Peter?
hold on one
The
second.
little kid? I think it was
If
Peter.
if I'm not mistaken,
Which
it was Peter, but
he
I
is
can't
also
remember.
I mean, he's a secondary character in this movie, but he's also like a big part of it.
If
We are
if
Yep.
introduced to Peter by seeing Pierce Brosnan at night looking through their window. They are neighbors looking through their window. The father of this family hits the mom, and the little kid tries to get in the middle, and we just see the little kid just get decked by this full-grown
Yep.
man. And
And that
Pierce Brosnan is just watching this, smoking a cigarette, doing nothing
Huh.
about it.
yep.
Yeah, he's
And
pretty much like, huh?
hey, he's opening up
Harold
the way to get
Parquet.
in the family. He's got
Maybe
it.
maybe it's
He's
just
got the
maybe
fam.
he's
He's
just
got
like
the fa-
thinking.
he's got the family's got to be torn apart before he can weasel his way in.
I'm just saying
Sure.
he's just like witnessing domestic abuse without doing anything, without calling the cops, not doing nothing.
He's
He's
just going.
plotting to
Oh,
save the
reminds me of
day.
old times.
Nah, I don't think he's plotting the same today. I think that's just like none of my business.
When
Yeah,
I mean
pretty
he's
much.
plotting to save the day, he's plotting to replace that dude one day, and so he's like,
No.
"Oh, the dude's
No.
gotta be a
No.
douchebag, so they break up, and I can just come in and weasel."
No, I
That's,
think
you
he's
know
No.
just
what? I
like
just want
No.
to say
none of my business.
after a certain scene happens, that kind of what he does anyway.
It is,
Well,
and it kind of
yeah.
comes out of nowhere. Yeah, like he
Yeah, so
just.
so this is the
We'll get there.
family. This is the family Parquet. Little Peter Parquet, the mom and wife Carla Parquet, and Harold Parquet. Harold is a I'm assuming an alcoholic, and also a physical
Yeah,
abuser.
he's
Um,
abusive.
yep, and while they're undergoing training, um, he's inviting the kid over a bunch, and Job's always over at his place and stuff. And there's one scene where like they're going back to like Peter's going back to, with Carla, and like the dad gets home and like sees his kid hanging out with Job, and he just straight tells his kid, "Don't hang around him. You want to get the stupid." And then he like brings him inside, and then like the mom Carla is just all like, "You like you'd make a good father." to thing to
Well, yeah, I
Angelo.
mean, her when she's comparing these people, yes, I mean, one is not abusive.
Yeah, yeah. I
Also,
mean
and we
that's the only
also
difference though.
this that's not the only difference. I think this plot synopsis also does not mention another one of our characters, Dr. Angelo's wife,
Hmm.
which what was her name?
That
I don't think
that
they
Um,
gave her a name.
Mar
I never.
Nope,
they gave
she has a name. Her name's Marnie.
Oh, I did
no
not.
Marnie. Marnie is a different character.
Is it?
Marnie is
Oh, Caroline.
Caroline. Okay, so we meet Caroline, and their marriage is obviously not working. Caroline is tired of him being very absent in their marriage. Caroline
Distant.
also seems like they make her the nagging bitch. I mean, we're not supposed to like her. Um, I think, they're
I don't like the way that they do that, by the
yeah, the
way.
way that they do that is rough. I think they make her unlikable on purpose. Like we're supposed to be more on Dr. Angelo's side, but I'm just like, I mean,
Like
he
like
seems
It's
so
very
quite.
absent.
It's
so
quite
like when he's
hard to
starting to
be on his side when he's trying to bang the neighbor that already has a family.
I don't. That's
And I
not
think
really a
she
through
is.
line in the movie, though.
No,
But
it's
there's
not.
gotta
And
be
then
something going on because that's what happens at the end. There's gotta be something there. It
Yeah,
well,
just
that
doesn't
we don't know
happen.
because
comic.
we don't see that. But like what we do see is we see Dr. Angelo relentlessly pursuing these experiments with Job, and Caroline comes down. It's like, I know that you're older than me, but like I want to go out. I want to go to the city with
Well,
with
he
like
had
my friends and
promised to
stuff.
take her out, and then
Yeah, he
he
did.
doesn't. But
And
also,
he
she's like ignoring the fact that he just lost Roscoe, his chimpanzee. He's very sad about it.
yeah,
But I don't know if he even told her. He's like, "You don't know what I'm going through." Well, did you tell her?
he probably can't tell her. It's probably top secret. He probably can't tell her what's going on with that stuff.
Maybe
But
But
she
so.
obviously doesn't like believe in anything he's doing either.
no,
Yeah,
she
It's
they
does
hard.
this
not.
It's like
this is a
they need to
couple should
be.
not be together. This couple should
Yeah,
not.
they'd
They
be
don't like each
happier.
other. They
Yeah.
don't. Neither of them like each other.
And like so like the specific scene that I really don't like is that scene that I was talking about where she's like, "Oh, but you told me you would take me out, but no, you're down here, playing with your computer like always." And he's like, "Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And then then they proceed to have like a very aggressive makeout session, like out of like there's like
Oh,
not like
he
they're
seemed
in the
like he
middle
was
of a
It's got.
fight and
he
he
was
just
doing that
like
to appease her. That seemed
yeah.
like.
Yeah, and
It's
it just like it doesn't work very well and then like she leaves and then like gets ready and then comes back and she's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to go out with my friends now. See you
So
later since you don't want
so
to go out with
there's
what
me."
I'm
a
gonna
there's a
say.
anger there. There's anger there. You just not understanding. They really want to rip each other's throat out, but they're trying to make it work, even though they shouldn't.
Well, what I will say is that in the theatrical version, this is the end of Caroline. She's instead of saying I'm going out with friends, she says I am leaving you, and we don't see her for the rest of the movie.
Oh, that would have been better.
In the director's cut, which we watch, she says I'm going out with my friends. We don't see her for a few scenes, but then she's like just randomly back. And then she's in the movie later with a completely different fate than just leaving her husband. So that's
Yeah.
another one of the bigger differences between the two cuts is the theatrical, she just leaves in that scene and then we never see her again.
And
I wonder
honestly,
why
I
they
mean,
were
like I would have
scared.
preferred that.
Yeah, but I wonder why they were scared to do that. I know we're
I
jumping ahead a little bit, but
I will say I like the cut. We got better just because of where like the craziness of the scene where that shit all happens. We're not there yet. We're not there yet
The
though.
high strangeness, right?
Yeah, just like
But
the that scene like is just we get real wild with it.
And so now I will also say, as he is bringing, he's bringing Job into VSI to like use these new machines now. Um, he still comes in with like his hair, it like weird and like all chonky Job.
Mhm.
Like it's very uncared for, pretty much. And then after this incident, that is when he actually starts combing his hair back. And we start to see more and more
Which
intelligence like coming into
signifies
him.
intelligence, I guess, of
Hmm.
him being more aware of his appearance.
Yeah, and he
Gotta be
also
slick.
yeah, and so like the incident that happens is like they go in there and like they're flying around and stuff. They're doing the program like normal. Um you know, Angelo is giving Job more and more of like the information and stuff, and then he has a seizure.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was.
And so Angelo hops off of his machine, goes and shuts it down, and tells Job, and this is the first time, um, and it's a constant line throughout the film. I pushed you too hard, too fast. It's great that you can absorb a lot of information this way, but we need to do it in a way to where you're not burning yourself out like so hard. And that then leads to listening to the little encyclopedia discs at VSI, where he actually gets to
Okay.
sit in the chair.
Yeah, and it also seems like Job is getting more addicted to knowledge.
This is a
Yeah,
little plot.
he definitely is.
They got a little plot hole here, by the way. Okay,
What is
so
it?
you're telling me they're telling me Job listened to 100 hours of audio recordings in like how many hours do they say?
Oh yeah, I
It's like
remember
it's
this.
like 5 hours. It's like 5 or 6 hours.
So he like listened to them like how is he the
Yeah,
like
how's
And
that
he
possible?
like
he'd have
there's
to listen to it at like 15 times speed to do
yeah
that.
like
Which they don't show because when we see him listening, it's at normal speed.
yeah
Yep.
I
It
so
seems
it's
like
just not physically possible for that to happen.
I think like
probably a
what they're
lot of plot
yeah,
holes
it's
in
not.
this
I
movie,
think what
though.
they're trying to say is that like because of the medication, like he can just absorb information a lot quicker. So
You think
eventually
he had it sped
he
up?
starts slow and then he goes really fast.
Okay, so like he starts like at like actually
Yeah, because
watching them at normal speed, and then as he goes, it speeds up.
yeah,
I can see that.
yeah,
Probably.
Yeah, because Angelo, like when he's showing Job this, he's like, "Okay, look, here's your air mouse or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he called it, his three-dimensional mouse or whatever." And then he sits down in front of the screen, and the screen is hilarious because it's got like a picture on one side, a bunch of words on another side. It's got like a play button and like a little track thing. Very if anyone is old enough to remember QuickTime, it looks like a QuickTime run bar at the top. And then when he presses play on it, he's like, "See, this way you won't be like you can still learn it and you can still learn it fast, but it's not going to be as intense as like the VR stuff because I'm pushing you too hard, and I shouldn't be pushing you this hard." And he's like figuring it out, and he clicks on it some, and then we see this like face of this like random man that just
Oh,
like
that made me
pops
laugh
up
so hard.
in the middle of the screen, and like the man's like he's like kind of talking, but like they clearly didn't want to put much budget in this scene, so he just kind of like mouth moves like really cartoonishly, and it's just hilarious. It's just great.
And then we get the montage of him in his gaming setup. I want that. I
Yep.
want that as a gaming setup so bad. That would be
Yeah, it's
so
pretty
fucking cool.
nice. Yeah,
It
it'd be
says
nice to have surround sound like that.
on this little trivia thing, it says several of the symbols that Job sees flying at him during his first VR treatment are demon evocation seals taken from the Key of Solomon.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
That
that's
is not.
sick.
That explains a
That's
lot,
sick.
though. Actually, he
I
should
have
not.
that.
They should
I
not
have
have
those.
started. They should not have started him with that, though.
No, no.
They should have
Um,
started him off with something a lot more calmer.
so while we're in this montage, we get a lot of like really awesome little scenes here in between, like while he's becoming the ultra smart. We get like some quality bonding time with a couple of different people from Job's perspective. Angelo's kind of like he's there, but he's like not as involved for this like sequence of events. We see Job like, oh, he's got his hair did, he's wearing blue jeans now and like proper fitting clothes and cowboy boots. Like he really likes his cowboy boots a lot.
He
Um,
does. It also, just to expand on that, it says when Dr. Angelo stimulates Job's brain using VR, the symbols that fly at Job at close inspection are Kabbalistic mystical symbols with ancient Hebrew on them.
Jeez, they didn't have to go. They did not have to go that deep, but I'm glad that they did.
That to me is kind of like the whole symbology of like he's eating the fruit of knowledge,
Oh yeah, definitely
Oh
is.
yeah, definitely.
Is.
which eating the fruit of knowledge then corrupts you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
makes you.
definitely.
It takes you and turns you evil. But we jumping.
We are jumping. It's hard not to jump. Okay. So where we are at, there's the accident with the seizure. Okay, the project director, Sebastian Timms, the very bald man who has no eyebrows,
He
keeps
reminded
tab.
me of the agent from the second Harold and Kumar movie. So bad.
He's also played by Mark Bringleson, who
Don't know who
had
that is.
he played Andy Warhol in The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Okay.
Okay. So the project director Sebastian Timms keeps tabs on the progress of the experiment and secretly swaps Angelo's new medications with the old Project 5 supply. That's when we see him replace the blue drugs with the evil red drugs, the
Red
aggression
bad.
drugs. Which actually, so I'm glad that this said that because this leads into the next part to me, which before I read it, we should introduce Marnie. The She is like the local seductress, I'll say, kindly, right? I mean, they say in the movie like she likes to bang everybody. She gets around.
Yeah,
There was
The
a great
town slag.
the town flag, but
yeah,
I think Terry, the Irish lawn guy, which
yeah.
his brother is not Irish for some reason. Um, he says it. He's like, "Oh, it's the bully who's like, don't call her a whore." And Terry's like, "I'm not calling her a whore. She's got plenty of money. She just loves to do it." Like, I thought that was
Yeah, she
funny.
doesn't do it. Yeah, yeah, she
She just
doesn't
do
do
it
it for
because
the money.
she loves to fuck.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I
He
think,
was saying it like there's nothing wrong with that. I liked that. That made me laugh a lot.
yeah, yeah. I mean, good. Also,
At least
like,
he was
good take
clarifying.
too, because like the background we get with Marnie is that like her husband died and she got like his life insurance policy and stuff, and just like just like she's got her house, she drives like a Mercedes in this like really small town,
So
and it's just great.
how we meet, well, how they meet is so she's at the gas station getting the bully guy to pump her gas, and she looks in her side mirror and just sees a luscious round ass in jeans.
Yep,
I
Job
I
ass.
the Job ass. I wouldn't
It was a
say
good ass.
It's a decent ass.
I thought it was a good. I thought it was a
It's
good
a
ass.
decent ass. It's decent.
Spooge, what do you think about this ass? I haven't heard from Spooge in a while.
Yeah.
He might be muted.
Oh, yeah, I was talking. Yeah, it was all right. It was an all right ass for a man.
As an
I thought it was a great ass.
connoisseur, it was decent. I will give you that. It was
Yeah, it
decent.
was
I think
7 out of 10.
it was amplified
It
because
was
he
pretty
had
good.
like
Yeah, I'd
had
give
like
it a
real
6.
he had like real nice fresh jeans, like it was looking
See, that's
looking
the thing.
good.
You're getting tricked by the jeans. Those jeans are a fucking
But-
lie, murder.
No,
Those
I love
jeans
an
are a
ass in
lie.
jeans. I love an ass in jeans. It doesn't matter.
They're
If it
too
looks good, it
loose.
looks good.
See, if
It looks
I would be
good.
with
It
you,
looks
I feel like
good.
okay, so
the
jeans
jeans were
ass.
too loose. The jeans were too loose. If they
No,
were
they were
tighter,
not.
Not for
they
not
were-
no,
if
not for
they were
90s
tighter,
jeans.
I don't know how those jeans could have been tighter.
they could have been
I mean,
tighter.
not for his ass. Not for his ass. I mean,
I don't think those jeans could have been tighter without splitting.
Oh, those jeans could have been tighter.
Well, we're split here. I thought it was a good ass.
It was a good ass. It was a good
And
ass.
so
It was a
did
good
so
ass.
did
It's
Marnie.
a
So
six
did
is,
Marnie.
a 6 out of 10 is not bad. It's above average.
An above average ass, nonetheless.
and so this is happening like during the little montage that we get, and then late later on oh yeah, while they're at the gas station, right? She approaches him.
Yeah, she
Right.
approaches him, and she can't believe that it's the same Joe because she does know him. He mows her
Mows her
lawn.
lawn.
Yes. She can't believe that this is the same Job that's been mowing her lawn, and she says something like, "I can't wait for you to mow my grass later."
Yeah, she does.
I just want to say
Really
this.
seductively too. It's
Want to
great.
say this? Got a shitty yard. She got a terrible yard. Terrible yard.
Yeah.
Terrible.
She's too busy
fucking yard.
fucking.
That yard
Yeah.
right there. That yard with there. That was $100 yard all day long.
Oh. But oh yeah. So the bully sees this interaction happening, and he tries to start something, and this is where Terry like again shows why he is the absolute best character in the film.
Well, what I thought was weird was the bully was oddly tender with Marnie too.
The bully was
'Cause
because
this
he
bully
wants
is
to sleep with
absolutely-
Marnie.
Wasn't bullying
But
Yeah.
Marnie?
I'm talking
I could've-
about after
I could've
Marnie
swore they were
left.
banging.
Yeah, they're probably banging.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
she
implied.
was banging a lot of people.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
banging a lot.
That's why that
Yeah.
guy got mad because
But
that's
I
why,
could
that's
just
why the
like
bully got
so.
mad.
Well, that bully was just so like awful to Job and like being, very politically incorrect and the slurs that he was calling Job. But then he's like
Yeah, we get some
very
hard Rs.
sweet about Marnie and like, don't you call her like a whore. Like I just like
Yeah.
he could have been like, yeah, I'm banging that whore. Like that seemed more in personality for that guy, and then like he was just like, no, don't you talk down about her.
Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
She might
because
lay
he was,
down.
Probably
I
because he felt.
mean-
Yeah, she might because he lays down. Like, and I could totally see like he could probably say that she's a whore, but this other guy said she was a whore. He can't do that.
Yeah, that's kind of
That's
Yeah,
all the
I mean,
guys
I
are.
could-
But that's
could-
when
I
he's
could
like,
see
I'm not
that,
calling
yeah.
her a whore. Whores do it for money.
Yeah, but
But like he
But-
seems positive, like she
So
just
the
likes
toxic
banging.
male. The
But
toxic
anyway,
male
I-
still likes to be chivalrous.
I
Like,
think
still likes to have
the-
chivalry.
Isn't it the next scene where we get the next very uncomfortable I don't think this man can consent thing?
Yeah, pretty close. The only thing that I wanted to touch on is like this is where Job like first gets some violence triggered in him, because like after she drives away, like the bully starts starting stuff with Job, like specifically in regards to Marnie.
Mhm.
And that's where Terry, the owner of the landscaping company, kind of jumps in, and then we get some more like we get a hard slur from the bully, and then Job stands up for himself and he gets popped in the face by the bully. But then it's the next scene. Then the next scene is him mowing her grass.
Okay, so he is mowing her grass, and she comes out with some like lemonade and cookies or
lingerie.
something. Yeah, basically in lingerie, being very seductive. And Terry's like, "Dude, you got to go in there." Like,
Oh yeah,
encouraging
oh
him.
yeah. That was a great scene too, because
I,
like Job's just mowing the grass and he's like staring at her super hard, and Terry's just like, "What are you doing? Go get some lemonade."
I have to redact what I said earlier about she might lay it down. She's humping his leg during this scene. I just want to make that obviously clear. Like, she is on that right leg, just
Well,
grinding.
so before we even get to that, like he goes
We're
in
right
there
here, though.
and
Well, we're right here,
okay,
but I mean, she basically is seducing him, and this is where we were very uncomfortable because like he's not ever kissed a woman, he's not ever slept with a woman,
yeah, and I mean she
because
point blank asks him to,
and
like
she's
that's
like,
how
you
we
know what,
learned that.
I can work with this, because he's hot now,
Yeah,
um, and it's just very uncomfortable and raises questions about, can this man consent?
I don't think he can at this point in time.
At this point, I don't
I
think
don't think he
so.
can.
I mean, later he seems like he's having a good
But
time for sure,
yeah.
true.
but the initial consent is
Can
that's a rough one.
again, I want to state, can you really have a good time when someone's just grinding on your right leg?
Well, I don't think she was supposed to. I think that was just to show motion
Yes, I
during the
know.
sex
I
scene.
understand, but there's been so much. You could do a better sex scene than this. You get
The kiss was more uncomfortable to me.
I shouldn't be going into too much detail, but what you can do the sheet trick. You get them on the cow. You get in the cowgirl position. You do the sheet around the hips, and then you do the motion. That is what you're supposed to do. You don't get the girl to grind on their leg like that.
Yeah, I mean they may not have perfected that at this point in time. We don't really know. I don't think Titanic was out yet, right?
I
No,
Where it all
know,
started.
but there could have been there's much better ways to do this scene than having her grind on the leg, because she is. I mean, I wouldn't be so harking on it, but it is so obvious that she is just on his right leg, just grinding on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid,
didn't
but
have as
also
much of a
like
problem as you did with that.
I don't need like I guess for like films and stuff, like I don't need like super graphic like sex
Like
to
I don't
realistic?
happen.
need it. I don't
Like
need it graphic. I just want it to be
sounds
done.
like you do.
I know. You can do it
It sounds
sensually.
like
You can do this scene. You can do the scene that I'm talking about sensually. You don't have to.
sure,
be,
but what I'm getting at is that like it's
You just-
it's still implied
all
it's
I'm
implied
saying
sex.
is make it look a little bit more believable. If you're gonna
Why?
if you have to.
I didn't
Why-
really have a
why
problem with
not?
it. I didn't even think of
Why
it
does it
until
have-
you had said something.
Like why does it have to be non-believable? Like what is the point of having her?
I don't know
rubbing
if
on
that's the I don't know if that's the consensus though. I think this might just be a you opinion.
It might be.
Oh, damn.
Just saying, if you get to do those scenes, just do it.
I'm
Do
just
it
saying
correctly.
I was not like, nothing was glaringly like unrealistic to me.
Like I do
It
appreciate
was to me. I could notice
so,
it.
so I guess like on this
Maybe she
particular
likes
thing.
maybe she likes a leg grind. Maybe she likes
Hey,
rubbing rubbing parts on a leg.
Hey, I
Yeah.
need to be warned at least.
Well, I mean, Job is just along for the ride.
Well, he can't be consenting to any of this, so it's not.
Well,
like
this is what I was talking about in this initial scene where she's teaching him how to kiss, and she puts his hand on her breast and is like soft, and then puts her hand on his dick and is like hard, and he's like yeah, like
Yeah, it's
yeah,
weird.
I don't think that
It's weird.
it's rough. It's rough.
It's
It was uncomfortable.
See,
I don't like it too. Just 'cause-
this whole scene
And
is
you know,
completely unbelievable.
once they were fucking, he was having a good time, and then as his intelligence grows, he keeps up the sexual relationship enthusiastically.
Yeah, he does. He does, but
But
it's
yeah,
also like
this
kind of
initial
groomed for it.
yeah
You know?
Oh, he
this
was definitely groomed.
initial the initial sex scene is very rough because it was very uncomfortable with I was very uncomfortable with that.
He did have
Yeah.
a
I
couple lessons.
I was
before,
uncomfortable
but he definitely
until
wasn't
Oh
throwing it.
no.
I was
Oh no.
uncomfortable until I was uncomfortable with the scene until it became unbelievable. Then I just started laughing. I just couldn't help myself.
What?
But anyway, I
Okay.
guess
So
do we want to keep
I'm so-
talking about this scene first?
no,
No,
I don't.
I don't.
I just
wanted to move
I'm not
on.
gonna let I don't it doesn't need to be believable. Like I don't
Well,
I don't think it need like
I
it's
think
implied that they had sex. Like I don't think we need
we'll
to
just have to
have all
agree.
that.
Well, I'll have to agree to disagree on what needs to be believable and not.
I'd say I'm like a halfway in between that.
Just
Yeah.
saying, if
I'm
you're
just
gonna
saying
have to
I
do a
didn't
sex
I
scene,
didn't
do
even
it right.
notice I didn't
I
really
get-
even notice the positioning until it was pointed out is all I'm going to say.
I get most annoyed when movies when like everyone is like hiding their nipples. Like when they're naked, they just got done fucking, but they're like, "Oh, don't look at me."
Which I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
we
because
saw.
nipples
Did we
are
see-
immodest.
Did we
It's
see
annoying
nipples
when
in
the
this? I don't remember.
yeah there's a little
there's some
side
we
shot.
side-
we see both of their breasts. Yeah.
There's some side shot. Yeah.
Oh, we see full breasts. I thought we got. Oh no, yeah, I guess we do.
We
Oh,
see
no.
full. It's full
I guess
breast.
it doesn't matter to me as much anymore, so it's not as memorable.
There you go. You got
Yeah,
you got
this-
full nip.
Anyways,
I honestly didn't remember.
You're saying
So,
if someone's grinding on my leg, I'm gonna be laughing.
Well, you could be laughing while she's getting an orgasm from stimulation. How about that?
That's great.
Sounds like a good time.
All right. Should we move on?
Yes, we should
Love
move
to.
on.
Okay.
A laughing come.
Laughing and coming. All right.
Yep.
Where was I? Okay, so Tim's has just switched the medications. We have just met Marnie. When Job invites, okay, this is where it gets weird.
But before
Go ahead.
I don't know. Well, so like the other thing that happens with this is we get a nice scene of Job driving around Peter like
Okay.
like after the sex scene. So after
Oh yeah,
the
with the boom box,
so-
and he's
yes,
annoying.
yes.
He's
that you're not
sampling
listening to.
music. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like sampling them all really quickly. He goes to the diner, and like he's pretty like he's at this point we recognize that like he has become like a full-fledged like consciousness, and like he's no longer of lower mental capacity. Um, and he's like, oh, I have all these comics, like I don't really need them, like I have all I want, like with my learning programs and stuff, so I'm just gonna give them to Peter. And Peter's like super duper stoked. And they go into the diner and he has another incident, where
Oh,
like
yes.
Peter goes away and all of a sudden he has this like panic attack slash seizure slash
Like
stroke,
migraine.
like migraine thing, and he
And
gets like real messed up on it.
well, it seems like it's because he is starting to hear all the people's thoughts around him.
So he like looks at someone and like as he's having this panic attack, he hears like a different person's voice in his head go, "Oh, look at that man! What is he even doing?" And like all this stuff, and
Yes,
he,
he's hearing random thoughts of everybody, and
yeah,
it's overwhelming
it's a
him
lot.
into a
Yeah,
migraine. It reminded me of
scene-
that Buffy episode where that happened.
This
And
scene
then
hit a little
yeah.
close to home to me. It definitely made me uncomfortable. That's for sure. I hate scenes like this. Anytime it's
Yeah.
like, fuck, I can't tell. I can't tell if it's me
Yeah.
or if it's the goddamn movie now.
Yeah. Oh. And then he returns not to his shack anymore, but to Marnie's, right? And that's where we get the toothpaste.
Oh yeah, so
Wasting the goddamn
that's when we start
toothpaste.
seeing his developing telekinesis powers. So he
Mhm.
like moves around some things on the sink with his mind. Then he
He breaks the
open
most the glass. So he like starts moving this glass with his mind and is like not sure, like it's freaking him out, and it just like barely tilts over into this like shallow sink, and it just shatters into a million pieces. And I
it's
thought
that
that was
real thin
hilarious.
glass. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
like
was just thinking
super
about
thin.
like, fuck, now you're gonna have to clean broken glass out of the drain. Like, how do you even
Yeah, that
do that?
sucks. It
It sucks. And
sucks.
then
Yeah.
he opens the toothpaste and starts squeezing the toothpaste out of the tube.
And just keeps squeezing it, and it like zooms in on it, and he's just like wasting this whole tube. It's
Yeah,
great.
Doesn't
but I
even
mean,
He's
replace it.
rich.
that's it's that's fine.
Toothpaste is
That's
still.
a fine sacrifice. I mean, if I developed telekinetic powers and I did
That's
so by
telekinesis,
wasted
Kyle.
if if I did so by wasting a $2 tube of toothpaste, I'm fine with that.
But it's not his toothpaste. That's the problem. It's not
Well,
his toothpaste.
Marty's fucking rich. Don't give a fuck.
No, she doesn't.
Marty can afford toothpaste.
Hey,
Yeah.
I might be a millionaire, but toothpaste is toothpaste.
She
Damn it! Now I
she
have to
is
go to
too
the store.
she is too happy with all this like increasingly like good sex that they're having.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Yeah, she
setting
treated
that
him
up,
well.
so our next plot point in this plot synopsis has to do with Marnie. So I will say, I mean, it shows. I think there's like a little bit, like they show a few scenes of them banging a lot and like having a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Um, and then he says something like, "So now he can read her mind," and he's like, "Oh, you have some really weird fantasies because he can now read her mind."
yeah, yeah.
So he takes her to the to the VSI lab and hooks her up to the VR because he wants to try some cyber sex on her and to indulge her fantasies.
Oh yes,
And then
we
we
get some
get
good scenes.
I loved
Which
this scene.
is her
I
fantasies that she wants to be so
uh,
close to someone she melds with them? Because that's what they were doing. They were like
well,
melding
Yeah, they were like
together.
melding, they were becoming one. Which I
And
mean that's a thing, right? Like the two become one thing.
yeah, yeah,
Um
totally.
yeah, but th- they could have just said that. They didn't have to imply that. That's not like a weird
I
like fan. That's pretty much like the norm, isn't it?
well,
I don't know. I was into what was happening until the incident.
yeah, so they're both in the VR thing, and they're like humanoid kind of silvery forms, and they start making out and touching each other, and their like faces
Like
are like stuck together.
melting into each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, and I really like that. And I like that they're showing, not telling us. Because then like after like some time of that, they like meld together and like become like almost a literal creature with two backs, and then that morphs into a dragonfly. And I thought that was really cool too. Um,
Yeah, so
and
they're like flying around as one being, like a dragonfly, and it's just like some wild computer animation. Um, and then like it starts getting more intense to where she gets like stuck in the goop. And he like doesn't let up on her when she's like, "Hey, all right, it's getting too scary. Let's stop."
she wants to stop. Like they come untethered, they get on this goop and stuff, and like she's not down anymore, and he just
Yeah,
like
she's
keeps
starting to
pressing
get
and pressing.
scared. And then he turns into a monster, like a weird vagina mouthed monster, and like starts, I don't know, like eating, attacking her,
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
almost
gore.
like almost
Goring
like
started happening.
gore.
boring
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it basically makes it to where like
She's
he's
being
reading her mind.
consumed.
She probably is like, oh, I feel consumed by him, and he takes that like literally to a pretty gruesome extent.
But what I will say, and he gets like, so it affects her so much that she is pretty much like her mind is gone.
Yeah,
Like after this,
she's
her
mentally
mind
gone
is,
the whole rest of the movie.
for the whole rest of the movie, her mind is gone. Like she
If I'm
got
not
fucked up.
mistaken, the last time we see her, she's like running around the street all craziness.
Yeah. So he pretty much blew her mind literally, with this cyber sex. And I mean, he at this point he still has remorse. He's like, I don't know why I couldn't stop, I'm so sorry. But this makes,
Yeah,
at the time I didn't understand, but this makes sense to me. This is just after they switched the drugs, and the drugs that start making him more aggressive, because I was like,
right.
why did this happen?
I still
So
Yeah,
don't
it actually
understand
makes,
what would make him morph into the monster and start trying to
well,
eat her,
it's,
though.
Uh,
go ahead, Spooge.
I have a theory. I mean, I think, yeah, one of the influence of the aggression. I think they also mentioned that that field was. They actually mentioned something specifically, like it was like something with your mind, or it was like the network of your mind or something. And I think it was like she wasn't. Of course, she hasn't been doing the lessons, so she's not used to this type of thing. So she's stuck in, like, she can't go outside of her mind. She's not evolved to the level that he is. And I
Right, it
think it was
was
almost like
much
a
too much.
predator prey response,
Yeah.
that she's stuck in there like a prey. She's lower than him, and it kind of like unleashed this predator response.
Yeah, with
yeah, I could see that.
enhanced by the new aggression drugs,
Mm. And
I can
like him
totally
Yeah,
also
agree with. I can
increasingly
totally
becoming
agree with that.
superior too. Like he sees her as lesser.
which like, as like this scene, like as like janky as the monster looked in this scene, like it was pretty it was pretty disturbing.
It
Like
yeah,
was a choice.
the
There,
monster
I think
looked real janky.
I think it was because, like, even though it was silly too, it was silly, absurd at the same time. But there's also kind of like an undertone of like a sexual assault, you know?
Oh yeah, it was
Oh yeah,
definitely
for
a
yeah,
sexual
sure.
assault, because she
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
up said like, no stop, no stop,
Mm.
and then
It's
he
just
The
just kept
it's
going.
being done in this like
But it's being
weird
done in a very
way.
ridiculous way.
Yeah.
it's hard to disconnect when the CGI is on the screen. I will state that because the
Yeah,
CGI
that is
it's
for
not
Yeah,
sure.
the best.
if the CGI didn't look so bad, it would have been a lot scarier of a scene.
Mm.
I know that it was still early, but I feel the CGI could have been slightly better than what we got. But who knows with the
I
budget and
don't think that
everything.
at all.
Well,
I
well,
do not think that at all.
I feel like we can get into that at the end.
Yeah, I would say because Jurassic Park wasn't too far off, and I think it's what they needed was a implement. What they needed was a good combination of some good practical effects to help these
I do
computer effects.
I do agree, but for, I mean, if we're getting into it, I mean, for Jurassic Park, it was supposed to look like real dinosaurs. This is supposed to look like
A digital
computer,
world.
like a digital
Yeah,
world.
yeah, that's true.
And I do
That
think
is
like
true.
I do think doing practical effects like in
And
this
we
film
do have
would
to
not work
remember,
at near as
at
well as
when this movie came out, the average person did not have access to any of this.
nope.
Hmm.
that
They
is
didn't
true.
have
People were
access
bare
to, not
I just
even to the internet. Like the
right.
internet was not for public use really yet.
I just want to say that it's not even uncanny valley though. Like I feel if they just went a little uncanny valley with it, then it would have been more disturbing. In my opinion,
I
it would
don't
have been a lot more horror. But
I mean, I guess like to refute that, I think that they did the best that they could. Like though the fact that this came out the same year that I was born is, kind of a lot. This film came out in 1992, and like the fact that they were able to have 3D models of that caliber, like even the creature, like yeah, it kind of looks janky, but it's also, it just is. but
Yeah, and
That is
I will say, I
I
mean, the creature is what looked jankiest to me, but everything else, like, yeah, now
that
it
is
looks terrible. I mean, but I still like to look at it. I mean, but
I just wanted that.
we're much more far advanced now. But
Yes,
I just I was giving it the benefit of just the time that it was coming from, and I do get the Jurassic Park argument because that's what you can pretty much compare any CGI to, but I just think they were supposed to convey different things. I mean, I think one was trying to
Yeah.
make realistic looking beings, and this was trying to make a digital VR world.
Yeah, I will agree that it did need to be this, and I
If
do agree that it's the best they did bare bones computer animation, though. Just I think it's just something that this film can't help is just being dated because of
Oh
that,
yeah, oh for sure.
and
I
that's just
just
kind of out
feel
of its hands.
they went a little too non-detailed with it. I
Mm.
if they wanted to make this look cyberized, I feel they should have went a little more edgy, a little more jagged. That a lot. This comes with my just like my problem with modern art is a lot of smoothness, a lot of just
It kind of
bland
felt like I was
like
watching
blankness that they could
Xavier
have added
Renegade
detail
angle.
to. They could have added
If anybody
a
remembers
little.
that.
They could have added a little more metal hue to things. They could have made a few more things look more cybernetic. It was a
But I'm
lot
I'm
of
saying, like,
plain. It
what is the comparison for that at the time? Like, what are they even having to compare to?
Yeah.
that's why I'm trying to think, but I don't think there is anything that you could really compare it to have them.
Right.
But it just if they made things look more metal,
I
that's the
thought,
best
you
way
know
I
what,
can
I'll
put
give
it.
that it was an interesting choice of how they presented the cyber world. I'm glad it wasn't just like a boring like bunch of just ones and zeros, and shit.
Yeah.
True. Just
In some of the ways that like it can be like stereotypically shown now. There was a little bit more imagination put in it, so I'll give it that. It was definitely absurd though.
Yeah, for sure.
I would okay, I got the perfect. I wish it was more like the mirror scene from the Matrix. Like yes,
Hmm.
it's completely fake. Yes, it's CGI. It's just chrome moving in waves. But that cool ass scene with when they're touching the mirror and it goes into waves.
Yeah. I
That
mean, I get that, but I also do
just
think, I
more
mean, the
metallic-y looking.
Matrix had the benefit of coming out 7 years later and being seven
True.
years advanced in
True.
technology.
I just want a more metallic look for the
Like
cyber world.
like a
Yeah,
chrome look.
yeah.
I kind of liked all
everything's chrome
the
in the future.
color. I kind of liked all the colors. I liked the dragonfly.
You
I
could
think
keep the
it looked
colors.
pretty like weird and cool, like the cyber joining like
I
looked cool to me.
just make things look more metalish. That's all that I would. That's my only note that I can think of. Is it just didn't look
All right,
metal
so we
enough?
got more realistic sex under the sheets and more chrome.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Hey, and
Moving
I want to
forward.
state this. It doesn't have to be like realistic. Just at least make them line up properly.
I was the one that said that I don't like sex under the sheets when it's obvious that like, oh, you're only having sex in this weird awkward way because it's the movie. That does take me out of it.
That's what they were doing in this. They were grinding his leg under
It happened so
sheets.
fast with that it didn't really bother me either. It was just kind of I did notice the
I just
grinding then. It was funny.
This is just not something that bothers me. Anyway, so moving forward, where were we? Okay, so when Job invites lover Marnie to the lab to engage in cyber sex, he accidentally lobotomizes her. We just talked about
Yeah.
that. Job continues the treatment on his own and begins killing people who mistreated him in the past. All right, this is a whole new a whole new chapter here. Um, as well as the abusive father of the 10-year-old friend Peter. All right, so this kind of glosses over this shit. Um, so I guess I'm having a hard time because it was a few days ago when we watched this movie to know like what scene came directly after which scene.
First is
Priest is
Papa.
first.
Yeah, so Priest was first. So I think that was so he comes in like full cyber suit that I guess was
And
on the
and
gyroscope.
It
okay,
is
Yeah,
on
it
the
is.
I'm gonna
gyroscope.
go back.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
gonna go back to a past point that I said. When computer graphics, that's fine with them without practical effects with them. When it's the computer world, you needed some practical effects with these.
Oh,
Yeah,
with
Oh
these
yeah,
definitely.
for
kills,
sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
with the
Mhm.
kills.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah,
because
I
this
I
is bad.
agree with
This
I
is the
agree with
scene was
you.
so good until the what happens to the priest happens, and then it's
Okay,
like,
yeah. So do we
oh my
want to talk
god.
about we want to talk about the priest's death?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he comes in and he says, I think he says it's Judgment Day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he
Like,
does. He basically approaches the priest and is like, you
He's like,
always
it's preach,
believed in
dude.
all this like nonsense, and but you're for all the misdeeds that you've done to me, it's your judgment day now. And the
and
priest
makes
starts
him
praying.
he makes him admit that he was molesting
Yeah.
children.
Oh yeah.
And
I
himself,
missed that.
ostensibly.
Oh no, he's the priest straight up said when he's making the priest pray and confess his sins, the priest says like something about molesting kids.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Oh yeah, for
we
sure.
should state that like at first when he first approaches the priest thinks he's talking to God at first because he's just in his mind, in the priest's mind, uh telepathically communicating to him. And
I
then
want to state.
when he finally shows up, like he is like, oh, it's no, that's not God, that's me. And then he goes through his mind, and that's how he gets him to confess all those things.
See, I want to state Job is a hypocrite here because he ends up calling himself God.
He ends
Uh,
up, yeah, he does.
He does.
later, yeah, yeah, he does.
So
Um,
he's
later, yeah, he
lying.
does.
He believes. He believe. I mean, how are you gonna not believe and become the person you don't believe in? How you gonna do that?
Well, I think he's saying he is now the concept of God,
Yeah,
uh,
because he can be,
not
he's
a
omniscient.
being in the sky through his and we'll also get there. I don't remember when the conversation happens where he basically says he wants to be God.
Yeah, right at the very end when the
Yeah.
confrontation's
But
happening.
it wasn't right at the very end because he there was one point where he is talking to Angelo and saying like I will be God one day and you will
Yeah,
know that by and like he has like a whole timeline which like I don't think
yeah,
they needed that but he's like you'll know that I am connected to every thing in the world when
yeah.
all the phones in the
All
world ring
computers.
at once. Yeah.
unless a bad
Yeah.
solar flare happens.
So yeah, and that conversation happens the day after this because Angelo tries to approach Job
Okay,
and
so
get
it's
him to
after
stop.
he knows that Job has killed people.
Yeah,
Because this night, and it's like as one after the other scene. This night is his killing spree. So the priest he gets the fire death, right?
yeah, he
yeah, he
does.
gets set on fire.
The weird computer fire that looks
Shittiest fire
It-
effect I've ever
it
seen.
does
Yeah,
it looks
it could
awful.
have been
As much as
way
I have
better.
defended the other stuff, this looks terrible. But I didn't know was it supposed to look terrible?
No, they
I
was
think it's
not
supposed to
needing
look.
to.
It wasn't
I
supposed to look
They
like real fire though.
That wasn't.
they were trying to.
That was supposed to be real fires in the real world.
They burned
yeah.
him too. They burned him
I
alive.
don't think it was supposed to look like real fire.
So
I think it
thought
was
were
supposed to
to.
look like no because because later when he turns the other guy into dots, he's supposed to look like weird computer particles.
Mhm.
And then
I don't think
Yeah.
he's
when
turning
he
them. I don't think he's
but
turning them.
So you
I
think
think
he was
he's
using
supposed
like
to be
computer
ripping them.
effects to kill
I
I
them?
think
think
he I
I
think
think
he
he's
was using
supposed to be
computer
ripping
effects.
them. I think he's supposed to
Oh,
be
shit.
ripping them apart by the particles.
I read this as him using computer effects and they become real, but they still look like computer effects
He
because
went to fucking Photoshop and killed them.
there is no way this was supposed to look like real fire. There's absolutely no way. And then we get the dots, and then we get it's jumping ahead, but later he looks at a little plushie of a bee, and then he makes a bunch of computer animated bees appear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
then he also projects his own head in a
yeah.
very
It just doesn't.
computer
It doesn't
way.
make. It just doesn't make sense for it to be computerized fire because the
To
priest does
me,
get burned alive.
it made sense to me for some
Unless
reason.
the
I can't.
world they were living in is a living computer. The computer itself, they're in a program itself.
I
I think
don't
that's
under.
the
Matrix.
bigger
I
metaphor
don't
here.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the
understand
Matrix.
how. I don't understand how or why, but I think it was supposed to look like computer generated fire. I don't think it was supposed to look like real fire.
Okay.
Maybe.
That
That
is
makes
my
more
take.
sense.
I don't know if that's right, but that is my take on it.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but I definitely am not for that.
Okay. Where Starfish, what do you think?
So I think that he I think that's the best that they could do with the budget that they had.
Well, do you
Um,
think that the fire effect was supposed to look like real fire or computer animated fire because he's been in this virtual world so much and seeing all this computer generated images, and now he's bringing it to the real world with his
I
new
mean,
powers?
yeah, I mean for me that's how I immediately took it. Um, and I think that especially with this scene, like I had zero problems with this scene. I was actually really stoked about it because like the moment that the priest went to console him after Roscoe's death, like way in the beginning of the film, I was just like, oh, he's been molesting Job, and bam, knew it. So like I was really happy that he got burnt to a crisp.
Oh yeah, we're all happy about that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that
They could have had a dummy
it's
set on
it's
fire. They totally could have set a dummy on fire. They could have had a stuntman.
yeah,
There's
but I
been plenty
but I
of
think
stuntmans that set
I
themselves
think
on
that
fire.
I think that takes away from what the director is trying to say. Because I think like what he's trying to say is that like in this new realm of the digital world, like that's where Job is gonna reign supreme essentially, and so I think what they're trying to express is that like, oh, he can use like digital powers in the physical world. Like it's
That's
the
what I took
melding
from it
of the
too.
for me, like this whole sequence of scenes is just a detailed way in which Job, thanks to VR, can now merge the digital world with the physical world.
And
That's
I
what I
will
took
say
from this night of killing.
He's fucking hunting.
this is also what I took from it. But the movie, this is a very interesting movie, but it's not really a good movie, so it doesn't explain itself in that way.
No, it doesn't.
So I think really any interpretation I don't think is wrong. That's what I took from it, of that this animation was supposed to look computer generated, not like real fire.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But after the priest, we get the gas station.
Ah, the gas. This was my favorite one.
It was so good. Um, it was so good just for the
He should have.
campiness of it.
He should have put his head and the face in the lawnmower.
And did he actually kill him, or did
We're
he
not
just
to the lawnmower yet.
Did he just?
Aren't
Yeah,
we
we're
on the
at
bully?
the
Yeah,
bully.
but the
Yes,
bully's not the. He
but
didn't get
the
lawnmowered.
bully did.
No,
Well,
but he shows
he
the
did.
bully the lawnmower.
He does. He shows him
He's
the
like, oh, look at
the
this.
mind. He gets the mind lawnmower. The next
Yeah, he
man
does.
gets the physical lawnmower. Um, so this one, did he actually kill him, or did he just destroy his mind?
I think he turned him into low intelligence that he used to have.
So he just
That's what I
I
think.
don't remember seeing a body after.
No,
I
he
don't
But that
remember
was
so the
seeing the
also
bully
a
bully
doesn't
after
actually.
I don't
whatsoever.
this was also a problem with this movie is they did not show the dead bodies after the fact, like
No, they
of the
didn't.
people that he killed. There was no
No.
virtually no gore in this movie. There's
So
only one gore scene where somebody shoots themselves. But other than
yeah,
that, there is like no practical gore in this movie whatsoever. You don't see dead bodies.
yeah. So
Yeah,
uh, so
the one
s-
scene that we're gonna get to soon, that it's a little gory. They do some shots on her.
Oh,
yeah,
there is gun
yes,
violence in this movie.
but we don't
But
really
like you
see
don't
like
see his victims, like you don't see the aftermath
Yeah,
of
like
what
yeah.
what
happened
should
to
have
them.
happened? We should have saw
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like a
We
big
don't.
dummy
There
head
is
get
no
shredded by a
calm
bone.
after the storm.
But this did have one of my favorite animations, just nonsensical. It absolutely has to be because they had to incorporate lawnmowers into this movie, and we'll talk about why in a bit.
Yeah,
But just having to incorporate lawnmowers in this movie when they really shouldn't be. They show Job getting into the bully's brain. There was like a fully digital brain and a man with a lawnmower mouth mowing down his brain.
yeah. Which is cool on like two different levels. And like right before that happens, sees the bully, and he's walking up, and the gas station like pumps just like the the hose with the pump on the end, just like whoosh, 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 and it makes the sweet like you know mid 80s nunchuck noise like as it flies out and like grapples him. And I really enjoyed that a lot.
It's
And
definitely
what's interesting,
it's not where I thought we were going. I thought we were going like, he's gonna make the gas pump spray gasoline on him.
yeah, on his cigarette specifically,
Yeah,
because at the
because
beginning
there
he's like, "Why are you smoking?" like
yeah, why are
as
you
he's
Gonna
pulling
smoking
burn
right
gas.
him.
by the gasoline?
Yeah,
Not where That's not where we went at all, but I like where we went. It was weird.
yeah, and it's cool too. So like physiologically, kids when brains developing, it's essentially a smooth brain, and what actually happens is as you form neuropathic connections, your brain becomes more wrinkly, and it kind of happens in this process. So like when you sleep, the cells split up and it makes those wrinkles because your neuroconnectors become closer. So in my mind, it wasn't a lawnmower necessarily, but it's kind of looked like something like that, like a tiny little thing that like goes in and like makes the wrinkles like by shaving off portions.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought he had a lawnmower mouth.
yeah, yeah, no, he did. He did. Like that, the scene you described with the digital brain and like the man's face that I mean, I think it's supposed to be Job's face with the lawnmower mouth, like trimming his brain down. I do think like that's exactly what happened, and I also think that for the bully specifically, the reason he wanted to do that to him instead of like just outright killing him is that he wanted the bully to know like he will be conscious, like he will have once known like what his brain used to be able to do, and now he's at Job's level,
Right, because the bully's main focus on Job was his
his
like
low
just
intelligence.
demeaning his intelligence. Yes.
Yeah. And I think like also with this scene is like such a nice like karmic comeback um for it too. Like I really enjoy like when people get hurt with karma. And then last little portion with this is later on we do find out that like the bully didn't die because of what the police chief says to Angelo in the morning. But
Okay.
then he moves on because there's one last guy that he knows has been hurting his friend Peter.
Yes, we move on to the abusive father of Peter. Um, and this was the one that was a little more disappointing because I liked the track we were going on, and then they just didn't lean in far enough.
No.
So pretty much Job comes and he is controlling a physical lawnmower with his mind. And the lawnmower is
Big Red.
chasing what?
Yeah, it's Big Red.
Oh yeah, Big
Yeah,
Red.
it's the Big Red.
Yeah, we were introduced to Big Red
A
earlier.
terrible
And
lawnmower, I must say. It's like the worst
yeah.
lawnmower you could use.
Literally the best one I've ever seen.
It's good for mowing people.
This
Yeah,
lawnmower
it is.
That's why it's so good.
This lawnmower is chasing the dad throughout the house and eventually mows him down, which they don't show.
No,
They don't
can't
show
tease
it.
You gotta
It's a-
show it.
It's
It's a
literally-
rated
I was
R
so sad
movie.
about
Show
that.
it. Show
I
I was
it.
so
Rated
sad
R
about
movie.
it.
It's a rated
literally-
R movie.
They cock tease the lawnmower face. They put the lawnmower in someone's face,
And
but they don't
and
show us.
Spooge, please tell me your vision for the scene because it made me laugh.
Yeah, just put it. It doesn't even need to be that good. Just like a nice fake ass dummy that just gets slapped the shit around with the fucking lawnmower instead of fucking pieces. And then you fill it up with some red paint, so it's just like slap, slap, slap,
Yes.
slap, slap.
Why didn't they do that?
Oh, that is great.
Yeah, that's what I thought that's what I was about to see.
Yeah,
Nope.
I thought that too.
Didn't
And
see
they,
nothing.
I don't know why they went so like they just
Yeah,
didn't
Cronenberg.
lean in. They didn't
Or
lean
that
in
one
on that. I
Italian
don't know
guy.
why.
I guess
Yeah,
that at the time period they would have gotten a rated adults only rating if they went too gory.
No.
I don't think
no.
so.
No.
Not in
Suspiria.
1992. No.
That's the only-
No.
That's
No.
the only excuse I can think of was they're really scared of an adults only rating. Like that's
I don't
the
think so
only
because there
thing.
were so many horror movies.
RoboCop, fucking
So
RoboCop.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah, horror
Yeah.
movies, action movies got way more graphic than this.
So here's what I think with like why that was decided to be done in that way is I think that the director may have wanted to do something like that, but then was like, but is this scene going to be taking away from the fact that like Job is bringing the like connecting the digital world and physical
Taking
world.
away from the sci-fi of it.
Yeah, so I think like that's why they chose to go the direction they did with it. It does make me really sad because like for me like that's definitely what I saw. Like I saw him kind of running down the stairs and then like tripping over his own feet and then the lawnmower like grinding him up from like the bottom,
Yeah.
and like they could just show it like
That
going
would have
up
been
his legs
acceptable, too.
and then stop.
Even if it turned into a bunch of pixels, like red pixels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Could
would have been
even
cool
done
too.
that. I don't know why they were so restrained with this scene. I don't think there was any need to be.
No, there wasn't. I mean, we're
'Cause I
talking about
like-
someone who
I like
physically
the-
abuses his
I
child and
like the
wife.
fusion of the sci-fi and horror, but if you're gonna do the horror, then do it.
It kind of felt
Yeah.
like they were shooting for a PG-13 and failed.
But
I
the
could see that.
language was so like there's so many f-bombs in this, or
Was-
like the fucks. There were so many fucks in this movie,
Yeah.
But was that in
and
the
like the language is so
now
bad.
this is the director's cut. Was that in the theatrical cut though? Because the theatrical cut
Cannot
probably
say.
it might have
Mhm.
been a lot more tamer than what we're
Yeah,
actually
I
seeing.
can't. I know it was still rated R, but I don't know how
'Cause-
much tamer it was. I mean, they did take out a few death scenes. They took out the chimp death scene and the wife death scene, which we'll get to.
I mean,
So
Spooge does have I mean, I don't think PG-13 last existed. I think it would just have been PG at the
It
time
existed
period.
in '90s.
it did exist.
It
I
did?
think
Okay.
it was the Indiana
1989.
Jones. It was a Temple of Doom
Yep.
made PG-13
Okay.
necessary.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I
So
maybe
yeah.
that's why they were shooting for that PG-13 because you get a lot more when it comes to horror. You get a lot more people in the theaters if it's PG-13. But unfortunately,
I guess I just does it what like even the theatrical cut was rated R though.
well, they would have to rate it based on what the director wanted it presented it, and he would have presented this cut. The theatrical cut would
I
have
guess
been made
this is
afterwards.
honestly my biggest disappointment of the movie was them not leaning into it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I would have
Oh
liked
yeah,
that
for
too.
sure. I totally agree. There was not enough gore. The only gore we get is I think it's literally the next death scene, is it not?
And I'm not, this is me saying it, and I'm not a big gore hound. I don't love gore. I just like it was too little, way too little still.
I mean,
Um
for a movie called The Lawnmower Man, I expect to see a little more
somebody needs to
lawnmower
get
gore.
chopped up by a lawnmower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is something I will say too is that like the direction at times like it feels very lacking and I don't know like what all went on like necessarily behind the scenes or anything, but it definitely seemed like there were times where we're like, oh sweet, we're gonna get a big swing, and we never quite get that full big swing.
Yeah,
Like even later
agreed.
on in the film, we never get that like that that thing that would kind of push you over the edge to make you like emotionally invested, even though like the film has been like so far.
That's
Because
what
I do
Roscoe's
think that,
supposed to do. That's what Roscoe was supposed to get us
but
emotionally invested, but we don't have enough time with Roscoe.
Should
but
have
I
been the main
guess
character.
right. I'm just
I
saying
was
like there's
definitely
not enough
more
swings.
I was definitely more emotionally invested in Job than I was Dr. Angelo for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Job's much more interesting of a character.
But anyway, that was the last death
That
of that night?
that was the last death of that night, and we
He
get
doesn't
the
kill the
openings.
he doesn't kill the wife that night?
Not
Nope.
that night. That comes later.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's after Job. I mean, Larry tries to shut him down. He
And
yeah.
right,
retaliates.
because this is how Larry learns that he is now killing people.
Yep, because the next morning happens and Dr. Angelo awakes to find that his neighborhood is crawling with cops. And he talks to the police chief, and
Which the scene was really funny.
yeah, it was a pretty ridiculous scene. But he goes, well, wait, what happened? And like finds out that Harold Parquet is in the bird fountain in the back, and Angelo presses him a little bit more, and he says, "Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, that poor priest burning up over at the Catholic Church, and now this guy, two deaths in one night. It just must be a lot of crazies out there."
the
And
the the cop's delivery of this like is so funny in a movie that didn't really have any comic relief. And like this
yeah,
this dude
Oh
just
Yeah,
yeah.
it
comes in
definitely
hot
was
with the
not
comic
directed
relief.
well.
I thought it was funny.
I
I
think
know
It
it
was
yeah,
wasn't
hilarious. I love this
supposed
scene.
I think it was supposed to be funny though, right?
It had to
Maybe,
be.
but
It
it
had
I
to
think it
it
be.
definitely
was.
came off.
He's
It
supposed to be a
definitely
bad
was
cop.
random.
Yeah, he just
Well,
like, and I've seen that. I'm trying to pull up that actor because I know I've seen him in like bit parts before.
yeah. But so something that I think like works really well is I do think that that scene was an intentional comic relief scene, because Angelo's like pressing him, and he's like, well, was it this guy, and like he's kind of like you know painting a picture of Job a little bit to the cop, and he's like, oh, no one's really sure, no one saw anything, and then but he does say, oh, but they were definitely murdered, and then we see Job in the background staring down and playing with this cop's mind, and then he's like, oh, nope, this is just a
Oh yeah,
routine report.
he does the Jedi mind trick on him.
They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, a bunch of series of horrible accidents. Strange.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
they say suicides? I could have swore they said suicide,
I thought they said
I
accidents, but I don't remember.
but I could be
I don't
wrong.
I
I'm not
don't
remembering this scene too. I'm not
Well,
remembering what they said too tough.
first the cop says murders, and then Job Jedi mind tricks, and he's like terrible accidents, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think he necessarily straight says suicides, but I could be wrong as well.
And
But
then and
anyways, just
Dr. Angelo sees this happen. He sees Job pretty much wipe his memory.
yep. Um, but before he can make really any further action, we get what's his name? We get Sebastian Timms urgently calling Angelo.
What'd he say?
Uh,
I don't remember.
uh, so he basically says that you need to come down right now, like come to VSI, and so he goes with him to VSI, um, and then they kind of talk back and forth about like, you
Oh
know,
yeah, Hank.
yeah,
Oh, we have
the
not
things that
even
can
mentioned Hank here.
the things that can happen. Meanwhile, Sebastian Timms and the director of the shop, which is Hank, Dean
From
Norris.
Dean Norris from Breaking Bad,
Yep,
doing
yep.
a very weird accent.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But they've been having conversations, and
Also,
Was it
so
one of his
every
very
time
first movies? Because it seems like he was fresh on the scene to me.
I'm not sure, but I know, I mean, this got to be a fresh Hank. I don't know what
yeah,
his first performance was, but what made me laugh is whenever he was on the big screen talking to Tim's, like it would just zoom in on his teeth for some reason.
Zoom in on
yeah,
that
yeah, it
glorious
was
gap.
super
Yeah,
zoomed in.
that gap just, I don't understand that.
So
I
I
feel like
wonder
so
if
the
that's where the
director
meme
like
of him comes from. That's got to be where that meme comes from of him.
I feel like the director like kind of like I feel like the director's almost like a David Lynch type where they saw him and they're like they saw the teeth and you're like
We got to
you're
get
my
that on
bad
camera.
guy.
Yeah,
That's my bad
we got
guy.
to get those teeth.
Yeah,
well,
show him, show him.
so something that's interesting about Dean Norris is the year before this, he would be in three different things, two made for TV movies, and he would also be the SWAT team leader in Terminator 2 Judgment Day,
Oh, okay.
Oh
1991.
Wow.
shit! So yeah,
Um,
definitely fresh. He was just
well,
trying something new. I feel.
Well, fresh and kind of getting
fresh,
these sort of parts, these villain parts, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, fresh in a way that he hadn't really done much movies. Like he did TV movies and TV series, um, you know, from 85 looks like. And then in 92 is where he gets like kind of a bigger part as a villain in a feature length film.
Also,
Um,
completely off topic of his career, but do y'all remember when Dean Norris, I think it was on Twitter, he just tweeted out the phrase sex gifts? Like he was
no, no.
he was like so he was trying to put it in the search bar. He was trying to
Oh
look
man.
for sex
Oh,
or
classic
gifts
Hank.
like
Oh shit.
so
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if he,
Classic
and
Hank.
so he posted it instead on accident. It just said
several
sex gifts.
I
several
Awesome.
recently
several people have outed themselves with doing
Which
that.
I just thought that was hilarious. I mean, that's just that's kind of like a funny, innocent thing. I don't like
yeah.
judge anyone for that. It's just like
That
funny.
reminds me of a Facebook post that's been memed around that was like exactly what the dad post that was just like poorly written too that was like Megan Fox naked and then
Yeah,
and then
it's one of
someone in the comment section was like this isn't Google Dad.
it was exactly that, but just sex gifts.
Yeah.
Or
um,
gifs. Don't come at me. I don't know if it's gifts or gifs. I say gifs.
Ooh,
so
we're getting
it's
political
it's
there.
gifts.
Don't come
It's
at me.
gifts.
So while all these experiments have been happening to Job, Tim's and the director have been monitoring it closely. And the director at this point basically says, like, look, you guys need to show me some progress. Like, you need to present something to me. So Tim's kind of tricks Angelo into coming with him to meet the director of the shop. And Angelo's super pissed because he doesn't agree with what the shop want to do. He's like, "Oh, it's all war with them. It's all just killing people, and all this stuff." And at this point in time, he doesn't he doesn't really understand um why Job is starting to be so violent. Um,
Yeah, he doesn't know the drugs have been switched.
and so he goes into a meeting with Tim's and the director and finds out that Tim's did put the aggressive drugs into Job, which causes Angelo to freak out and assume that the shop is going to either hold him hostage or kill him because this is primarily Angelo's research, which leads to a scene in a hotel room, and it's great.
Which scene was that?
So that is the scene where we see a like the shower's running and then it's off and the door had been open the whole time and Angelo gets out but like he's sopping wet with just his khakis on.
Yeah, I think like probably the third shirtless Pierce Brosnan scene, maybe
Yeah.
fourth.
And Tim's is trying to console him, like, oh, this is just part of it. Like, I understand that you want to use your research for good, but like, we cannot do what you want to do without money. And the shop is the only one who's giving us money. So, like, you're just going to have to suck it up. To which Angelo looks outside, sees a car with four men all in dark suits come out
Oh
of.
yes, yes.
And he's like, "Oh, he's trying to keep me here," and so he gets into more of an argument with Tim's, and then like he's like, "But you're not gonna let me leave, right?" And then Tim's like, "Well, I mean, you can't really go. Like, we have to be here for this." And then he just like they kind of grapple for a second, and
It grabs his
Oh
face,
yes,
pushes
and
him
yes, I
into
do
the
Angelo
fucking
remember
just
the
seat.
part.
grabs Tim's face and just pushes it like against a wall for a second, and then like, oh, I shouldn't be grabbing his face. I should be punching him, and then
Yeah,
like,
starts punching him in the face
yeah,
and
and
then
then
punches him in the dick.
yeah, he
Yeah,
goes with the two hits to the
wasted
face,
that nerd.
one fist, not a kick, not a knee, but a fist punch to the groin. Uh, Tim's goes down. He quickly makes his getaway, and he goes down into the lobby, which leads us to another really awesome campy scene, because he needs to get a car. So he tells the concierge that he'll just take whatever car they have, it's fine. And she's like, okay, well, I just have to print out all this paperwork, and it's a dot matrix printer. So it's
I
just like,
don't know how I forgot this scene. I don't know how I forgot about this scene because I laughed so hard during it.
yeah, it's so great. And so so he's like, okay, can I just have the keys? I don't need the paperwork. Well, I can't give it to you without the paperwork. And so he's getting really frustrated. He's like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna walk away. Sees the guards go run up there. Tim's is all wounded. He's just like, leave me alone. Go get him. Go on. And so they rush back down there, and he's like run away at this point. And he knows that the guards are hot on his or the guys are hot on his tail. And then we just hear this concierge just like yell out, "Dr. Angelo, you forgot your paperwork. Dr. Angelo, Dr. Angelo," just like over and over again. And the guards immediately, they hear this and spot him. And then he's got to make a mad dash for it, and he
Yeah,
dashes from the
this
lobby into the kitchen.
this was the
Dash,
scene with the bus boy and the Uzi.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So he busts through like all this stuff, goes to like the outside kind of area of the kitchen, and then the the next things that happen are like this dude just had like a silenced Uzi somehow. Like uh, you
It
know,
was a toy.
uh,
It was a
it,
toy. It was a
yeah,
toy, but they tried.
yeah, yeah. They did. They tried. At the time I was willing to buy it. Um, and then like he beats up the guard with the Uzi, and then doesn't he hand it to the bus boy
Yeah,
to
he's
like
like,
hold?
cover
Just
me. He like
yeah.
hands it to the bus boy and goes, cover me, and like runs out the door.
And the busboy just like he doesn't like the busboy has been waiting for this moment his whole entire life. He has been hoping that a Pierce Brosnan will just bust through, beat up some guy with like a hand machine gun so that he can like put this guy at gunpoint, because he gets that gun and his face drops. He gets serious and he just like points it, like aggressively points it at him even
Do
more.
do y'all think when whoever decides the new Bond, like we're considering the new Bond, they were like looking at this footage of Pierce Brosnan, like, beating people
Absolutely.
up and stealing guns and like,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah, for sure. This
Absolutely.
was
because
it.
like
This was
up
it.
until this point, like like Dr. Angelo like wasn't in any action, but like this like turns into an action movie just for a brief.
Immediately. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see them just like looking at these reels like, oh yeah, that's the
gotta
one.
be.
Yeah. Yeah,
I agree with
definitely.
that.
Like I don't know like the gap in between them, but I could.
3 years.
Oh yeah, so yes, absolutely. Because there's not. I don't think that there's like other things that he. I
And
mean, I'm
that's
sure he did other
three
things,
year
but not
gap
like this.
between the first or is it GoldenEye, the first uh Pierce Brosnan Bond movie? And I don't
Yeah,
know, how long it was in production or whatever.
yeah,
So we'll say 2 to 3 years between this and that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just it's great. So he eventually escapes. He books it from wherever the shop is, because we don't really have like a clear definition on that. They needed a hotel, I suppose. Um, but he books it back because he knows that since Job has been having these extreme strong drugs, like the violent drugs, that he is going to be more violent, just like he saw with the chimp, with Roscoe. And so he ends up rushing back over there, um, and he's trying to figure out like what Job's next move is gonna
And
be.
that's when Dr. Angela goes back to his house and Job is there,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So Job is
So
in the basement. He's kind of set up his lair there.
yep. Um.
His Go ahead.
Oh. So before he gets to the basement, he walks in to see his
Yeah,
wife
that's what I was
Caroline.
about to mention.
Now I
Yeah.
want
The
to.
Okay. Go for
wife.
it. Go
Why
for it.
was? How did Job get to the? I thought he was in the. I thought he went into the gyro virtual reality to go fuck with everybody. Why is he in the basement all
Nope.
of a sudden?
So Job at this point has been trying to figure out a way to get into VSI because it's guarded and stuff, and
Although
for
that's
whatever
very
reason,
loose. That's very
yeah,
loose because I
yeah,
mean he
Okay.
was taking his girlfriend into there with no problem.
yeah, yep, and for whatever reason, he decides that he needs to go to Angelo's house, and I think what was actually planned by Job was that he was just going to kill both of them. Um, because of him being violent and all.
Yeah.
Um,
So Angelo comes in and sees his wife in the kitchen in like full like 50s housewife, like Stepford wives attire, like cooking
She's acting
and
like
a
just
one.
like
bunch of a bunch of stuff. There's a ton of baked goods like all over the
yeah,
counters. She's
just
got another
being
mixing
that
bowl.
Very
like
robotic.
yes, being that stereotype of the just like
The
perfect
housewife.
housewife, but it is very robotic. She's obviously undermined control. And like Angelo sees this and confronts Job like put her back. Like I don't like don't do that.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
this.
when I mean that's when and he
I almost
pretty
thought of
much
it as a. Oh, go on.
no, say it.
I almost thought of it as maybe like a twisted present to Angelo
Yeah.
until like he read his mind and saw that like, oh, he's
Yeah.
already
I
being
got
a
that
traitor,
too.
not he doesn't believe it.
I got that too.
I also got that as well because like there's clear like contention with his wife not accepting his like
Yeah, I think this
Yeah, there was
was
a
lifestyle.
scene
I
of
think
Job
this
reading her
was
mind too.
yeah, I think this
Yeah.
was an offering from Job to Dr. Angelo because up until this point, Dr. Angelo like they are at odds but not fully against each other. And this is
Yeah.
where, Job reads Dr. Angela's mind and realizes, like, no, he's
I
not
feel
with me.
Dr. Angela
Yeah.
might be trying to reverse the damage that he's done. I feel that's what he's
Yes.
trying to do right now before just
Yeah,
nuking
he
it like
definitely
he's
is.
supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is when Job kind of lays out his plan to Dr. Angelo. He's basically talking about, you know, achieving like a new stage of evolution, where he's going to become pure energy. He's going to be purely in the virtual world. He is going to be connected to every existing computer on the quote unquote mainframe.
Yep.
Mainframe is they do have a
Eh,
hacking the mainframe line in this movie that made me laugh.
yeah, yeah, that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And he also tells him like that he will be god of that world.
Yes, he will become
Cyber
God.
Christ.
Yes,
Yep.
he says Cyber
Cyber
Christ. He will
Christ.
become Cyber Christ. And that's when he mentions he promises
Fucking hypocrite. He
his birth will be
believes.
his birth will be signified by every telephone on the planet ringing at the same time. So
Which
that
I,
is
don't-
when will be born.
which I feel like, I mean, that gives him access to, like, I feel like the worst, that gives him access to, like, nuclear codes.
I
Well, I think that
don't
would give
think our
it
nuclear
access
codes are
to
attached to the phone lines. I don't think that's how
well,
that
the
works.
internet, but the internet was y'all remember dial-up.
But
Yep.
you could
Yeah,
just, like,
but do you honestly
you
think
could
they're
totally just, like,
attaching
shut it
our
down.
nukes to dial up?
especially in the 90s, you probably could have shut
I
it
don't know
all
what they
down.
were doing. I don't know what they were doing in the 90s.
I
don't
mean, maybe, but I don't. I
Cybersecurity
feel
was not the strongest
let
in the
'em.
90s.
true,
I
but
say
I
let 'em.
No, it was
feel
not.
that the internet
See what
wasn't
happens.
connected to as much as Job thinks it was at the time. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like
now.
Job
But
was less of a threat inside the internet.
that's why
Yeah.
he mentions he specifically says by 2001. Like
Oh, he
he
does.
mentions that day. He's like,
Yep.
by 2001 I
Okay.
will be connected to everything.
See, yeah.
Yeah.
So
all
this
we have to
to
do
me was
is
like
cut.
the director imagining this world where everything is becoming virtual reality, and we got a version of it,
Which
but obviously this is
way
what
off.
the director imagined. Yeah, it was way
Yeah,
off.
he'd just be stuck slapping anime titty
Yeah.
people in the VR
what
chat.
what the director was imagining was actually cooler than what we got.
Mm.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
people
it's
will
true.
argue against that. Some people will say
I
what
mean,
we
you,
got's pretty
you can
cool.
make that. You can make that in VR.
I mean, VR
Um,
is definitely a thing, but like people don't live in VR like the director was
Mark
imagining.
Zuckerberg's trying to change that though with the metaverse. People are.
Yeah, well, he's not
VR chat's
succeeding.
better.
He's not
VR
succeeding though.
chat's better. People live in that. People do live in fucking that.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just not
definitely
as
Literally
believe that.
fuck.
it's not as widespread. I mean, if you're talking about social media, then that's a different story.
They have to be rich enough to get.
Well,
like,
Mark
people to see
Zuckerberg's
stuff.
trying to create the metaverse, which is supposed to be.
Well, I
like
know
this,
that.
this fake
I'm just saying,
virtual
it's
Trying
not,
and
reality.
failing.
it's not as widespread as he had hoped it.
Hey,
was.
they just their
Now Roblox
avatars.
is trying it.
The avatars just got legs. What are you talking about? They're failing. They're making progress.
Oh, God. So he explains all this to Angelo, and then he proceeds to invade Angelo's mind aggressively for like the first like real hardcore time, and he ties Angelo up, like he essentially makes Angelo tie himself up and stuff and gags him. And that's when the shop people roll up to Angelo's house.
Yep, the shop people roll up to Angelo's house. We do see that Job has made Caroline, the wife, pull out a gun. Then the shop people roll up and ask for Dr. Angelo. I don't remember what is said, but she just shoots one of the guys and kills
Yep.
him, and then she gets lit the fuck up
Yeah,
by
she gets blasted.
yeah. Again,
Hey, it's pretty
another
good.
good. It is good. I was about to say another good riddling with bullets scene. Not necessary because his character doesn't deserve it, but it's still a good like riddle with bullets scene, just like the chimp.
I'm going to assume this was the character we were supposed to feel bad for. This was supposed to be the moment where like, oh, fuck Job, get that
Yeah.
person killed.
Right, because
Yeah,
this is the
but
first person he's killed who didn't directly harm him.
It didn't do anything to him, really. To be
Yeah,
honest,
no,
he was a
didn't really
non-entity.
have any reaction or interaction with him.
yeah, and I think Spooge actually has a lot of ideas. So you might want to unmute.
Is Spooge on mute? Are you trying to talk,
Oh shit.
Spooge?
Yeah, I guess
Oh
I
yeah,
was.
we haven't been hearing you.
Oh no, yeah. What was I saying? Fucking. Oh no, I'm losing it. I'm losing it all.
So she pulled out. She got
Oh yeah.
brainwashed and pulled
If
out
I
the gun.
remembered right, doesn't not only that, doesn't Job like do a whole mind connection thing to make Angelo watch?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
From
he does
Yeah.
make him
he
watch.
does.
And I feel like maybe that's why in the I could see why in the theatrical cut maybe that's got taken out because I could see if she just left and then there'd be a little bit more moral ambiguity with Job, but at this point he loses all of it.
Right.
Before
Yeah.
it's like he killed people that kind of deserved
That
it,
deserved
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
And then is like wants to like is kind of seeking his
Now
own
he's
path
just
of human
full on evil.
evolution.
But
But
he's
yeah, now
just
he's just
turned
full
on
on
evil.
And I could say I really like this scene, but I could see why like how the movie could have been maybe a stronger with like maybe like not knowing exactly who the good guy is.
And we have to
Yeah.
talk about, since we're on this scene, y'all, I'm going to assume y'all don't think this, but what was he actually doing to the people? Was he like ripping them? I say he was ripping them apart by their atoms, like that was supposed to be the visualization we were getting. But
They still seemed like aware too.
yeah, they did.
So-
They're,
Yeah,
like,
I
alive.
don't know exactly. That's what I got to of just like a jumble of molecules fading in and out.
So in my mind's eye, the way I viewed it is he was digitizing them. Like
Oh.
Digimon, essentially. Like he was
Oh.
essentially forcing them into his new digital world.
Digimon is canon.
Yeah, but he killed
And
them.
this is-
he killed
Is
a couple
this
of them.
also when he
Yeah.
projects his head? Like he projects his
Yeah,
face?
yeah, he does the head
Yeah, he
projector
does.
on the outside to scare the guys from the shop after they had already killed this pretty innocent lady, and they just like both have machine guns and they're just like spraying at the sky like at this like giant head of Job that's
Basically
just like
Those
trying
bullets
to
gotta
shoot
come
a
back down.
hologram.
yeah. Yeah, it was great. Also, just the way it's shot, it's unintentionally hilarious. Um, then we get Job leaving the scene, and we flash back to Terry, and we just see Terry like drunkenly sleeping in his truck, and he goes, "Oh yes, right away, Job. I'll pick you up." And then he just like goes and, like Terry was just like immediately like gonna help Job like no matter
I'm not
what.
100. Yeah, I'm not even 100% that there's any mind control. I feel like he's just like, oh, it's that time of day. and I
Yeah,
pick up Joe.
he was always helping Job, and he was also
he was just
always
being
driving
helpful.
drunk. He was always
Yeah.
driving
Drunk as
drunk. We
fuck.
saw that. Yeah.
He's having a good time. He's probably like,
He's
yeah,
always
fuck the
just like
police.
drinking out of a
Didn't even
a flask while driving.
Didn't
Yep.
even hesitate when a platoon of armed men were pointing guns at him. He just kept on going.
Yeah, so he picks up Job, and Job needs to go to TSI. So as of right now, Angelo is currently still in his basement, and that is when Peter and or wait, do they show up? Maybe he gets himself free. I don't remember
No,
exactly.
he hears them upstairs and he's like, Peter.
Oh, okay. So Peter and Carla free him from his bondage, and he immediately starts getting on his computer, and he's like, "I know exactly where he's going," and he starts doing his thing.
What is
into the
this thing?
mainframe.
jerking off.
do you want to take
No,
over,
you
Murda?
no, you've taken over. You're
Okay, I'm sorry. I
no,
didn't mean
it's
to.
okay.
He hacks into
But
the
anyway, so
mainframe.
yeah, so
You remember the sequence of events better than I do.
so he's like typing all this stuff, and he's going to use it to get into every computer. Like, I have to stop him. I have to stop him. And he is furiously typing away on his computer. We flash back to Tim's. Tim's is at VSI again, and there's this like IT guy who's like, oh, he tells him, you need to delete all these files, anything associated with Project 5. And then he starts trying to do it, and he can't. And he says, oh, it's like something from the outside is happening. Like, I can't, it won't let me delete the files. The files are gone. And then and then he's like, I think we've been hacked in our mainframe. And then fucking Tim's goes, what the fuck does that mean? Like, so seriously. It's so ridiculous.
Hey, to be
Um,
honest, Tim's got a point though. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
he's like
it's
not
true.
even being dumb on that situation. Tim's just being like, that's the smartest he's been in this whole fucking. It's like, what the fuck? He's actually
Yeah,
smart.
that line made me laugh.
And then we flash back to Job and Terry in the pickup truck, and there's a little plush bee on the dashboard. Job sees this, and he knows that there's going to be a big old group of armed guards, and he's like, "Oh, I could just like, what if I just made a bunch of digital like bees wasp things?" And so he like makes this huge swarm, and then like Terry and Job like start approaching this gate. It's got like 20-30 dudes there. They all got like a bunch of guns and stuff. And the swarm, they go through, and then shortly after that the swarm follows, and like all these guards are just like, first off, like, just let this truck just like go through. Like, they just kind of like, he just like saw all these people and just like drove right through. Like, Terry was super down to just like run some people over. Like, he was not about to care. Um and the swarm starts attacking them. They try shooting at all these like holographic wasps, but somehow like the wasps like sting them, and they get all weird and stuff.
Yeah, is that when some of them like after they get stung like being all molecular and
Yeah, yeah. This is their particles start like breaking up, and they become these like little ball clump
yeah,
things
the
of like a
bubbles.
person. And So they get through. Job, thanks Terry and stuff, and then we
Then
see
Terry
one
gets shot.
guard. Yeah, we see one guard like hop over the fence, and
Which
then he's
is
like,
the
"Oh
only
shit,
death that I really
there."
cared for. It was
Yeah, he's
bullshit.
like,
Terry
"Oh,
didn't deserve it.
yeah." This guard's like, "Oh shit, there's the fucking dude. I'm just gonna blast him right now."
You
Lines
know,
up his sight, takes a shot, and just like, nope, just hits Terry.
I
Terry just
I
like
hate
dies.
I hate to see him go, but think of all the drivers that were saved with him off the
It's
roads.
true. It's true.
Probably a family of four, I bet.
Hey, but you just got to take his license away. Come on, man. What the fuck?
But honest,
I also
on
will say so after
He did.
this VSI goon shoots Terry, when Job is getting his revenge, when he basically makes this man shoot himself in the head. They have
Yep.
like a eye contact moment, and I think this is the man that killed Roscoe.
Yeah, yeah,
Ooh, yeah,
yeah,
that's good. That's actually a deep. That's a decent connection.
Yeah, so I think it's the same guy who killed Roscoe, so he makes him shoot himself in the head.
yeah. And like, he is fully aware that he does not have control over his body or anything. Like, he is fully aware that like this person is like telepathically making me shoot myself in the head.
Yeah, and I
And
would say it's
we do
probably
get
the
some good
most
gore on that.
that's the most like graphic scene that we got.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still
Um,
not like hardcore, but it's
A
probably the
little pop and
most.
a little
I,
A little
splatter,
pop and a little splat. Yeah, they made sure
yeah.
they got the white wall behind him.
Yeah, they did.
I
They did.
wonder if that was a scene that was taken out because it was a little bit too much.
I
I'm
think
curious.
I
that
don't
it
think it
probably,
was.
yeah, and I think
it,
that's what actually earned it its R.
it was better executed than the Bjork Stalker suicide.
I don't get this reference.
Deep cut.
I don't get this reference. We can talk about it later.
um, so we flash back to Angelo. Angelo is now with Carla and Peter, and Angelo's like I gotta use your car. He starts digging through the shop guys' equipment, trying to find any type of weaponry that he can get. He finds a bunch of explosives, and he's like, "All right, I know what I got to do." And so then he tries to use Carla's car, but it won't turn over. And then he looks at it, and it's like all the metal is like turned into like plastic, like goop,
Oh
essentially.
yeah,
Like
I
it's just
forgot
like
about that.
the steering wheel is goop,
It
the
looked
shifter is
it
goop, the
it looked
engine's goop.
perfectly fine. It looked perfectly fine. He just had
It's
to
a
change
goop
the spark
mobile.
plug.
Or no,
He just had to change the spark plug.
that was his own car, right? And that's why he has to go use Carla's car.
Yeah, that's correct. So anyways, Carla and Peter end up taking him to VSI. Like there's no guards anymore. They've all been stung by wasps and digitized, or whatever happened to them, or dead. And he busts through. He tells Carla and Peter just to wait outside. And Carla immediately decides to take a nap. Um, while while this nap is happening, um, what's it called? Angelo is going through, and he's setting all these explosives, slowly working his way into the center of VSI where the gyroscopes are. Um, we then flash back to Job, who is now been sucked into the mainframe, and we get this really cool like suit scene. Like he's wearing the suit the whole time, and when he gets sucked into the computer, like he actually like like
It like
shrivels like all crazy.
desecrates him and like mummifies him, so
Yeah, it
Yeah,
he's
was a
just
definitely great
like a
practical effect. It was
yes, he is
definitely
just
glad
like
they
a
did it.
skin sack. Yeah,
I like to think it was a callback to the toothpaste.
Oh, it might have been. It could have been.
yeah,
he
You might be right,
toothpasted
yeah.
Coach.
himself.
The toothpaste was foreshadowing.
The toothpaste got its revenge.
Yeah,
So
and
his
then
physical body is dead.
he no longer can return to the physical plane. He's now in the digital space. Um, bef- before Angelo hops onto the machine, we flash back and we see a very asleep Carla and a Peter who has decided that he's going to go in and help his friends Job and Dr. Angelo.
Which I didn't
So
get the asleep choice, except maybe just like the adrenaline rush, and then she crashed. Because nobody just
She gets
like
slapped around all the time. I mean, you have to raise a kid by yourself.
yeah,
Basically.
yes.
I
Probably
don't
the decent.
know.
It's probably the best sleep she's gotten in
I hate to
years.
say. I mean, this movie is not kind to women. It
No,
just
it's
kind of seemed.
not.
I just kind of seemed like, oh, that dumb
I mean,
woman. She
and
fell asleep.
her delivery of things didn't help too. And she's just like, jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this movie is
chips
not.
and crackers.
This is not a feminist movie.
No, it's not.
Uh,
I think that they wanted probably to do like a Peter slipping through her grasp type of sequence, and it just was acted really poorly. And they're like,
Yeah,
"All
I
right,
mean,
you're just gonna go to sleep
I
now."
understand. We had to get a way to get Peter inside the
Yeah,
VSI building, but it's just like she's just asleep.
yeah, it's weird. It's a weird choice,
And
definitely.
it doesn't show like Joe putting her to sleep. She just falls asleep.
Yeah. Job hasn't done anything to. I mean, he did make her go to sleep earlier whenever he killed
I think she's
the
just
husband, but
tired.
yeah,
I think she's
I mean
been
that's
through a
fair.
lot. She's tired.
Yeah. Um, So Peter sneaks in. While Peter is sneaking in, we flash back to Angelo. Angelo is suited up, and he is going to
About to go head to
confront
head,
Job. Yep.
head to
Um,
head in the virtual reality.
and here's where we get like some of the cool, like weird wackadoo scenes.
Yeah, I liked all this.
Um, he gets in, and Job basically tells him, or like Job tells him, like, you're in my realm. I can make you do anything. I can make you suffer any fate. All this stuff. And he, uh, Angela goes, I know that you would do this, so like, I already hacked into it. There's no way you can escape from this computer. And he's like, that's not true. And he tries to, and immediately doesn't. Is immediately not able to get out. And then Job, in his fury, starts messing with Angelo's like digital form and stuff. And it's assumed that Angelo can feel these things. He gets crucified, um,
Yeah, that
which
was
is
it was a great scene.
yeah. It was pretty awesome, especially like the whole Job, Angelo, the Digichrist, all that stuff.
So
I thought
was
was really
Job
great.
saying, "I am now God and you are my son, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
crucifying you"?
Yep.
I don't know
So
how
you
that makes
learn.
sense or why, but
I can
I think
see
it's
how,
just
like, in an esoteric way.
yeah,
y-
I mean
yeah.
it all serves the purpose of this image of
I
his digital body being crucified.
I
Anything makes
think
sense if you try hard
I
enough.
think Job is supposed. I think it's intentional that Job is being hypocritical. I think that's the whole point. Is like, oh,
Oh yeah,
he's
he's
he's not
completely
lost the.
lost touch.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely being delusional and not really seeing eye to eye like he's supposed to. He's
Yes, he's
them
he's completely power tripped.
Until his only
Yeah.
true friend comes in.
them goddamn
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vitiate
And
games.
and so
Peter.
yeah, and so Angelo basically tells Job, like, look, you can read my thoughts. This whole place is going to explode, and you have no, like, you cannot return to your body. You're stuck here. You're going to die here. And that is when Peter busts on the scene. Uh, Angelo's aware that Peter's there. Job is also aware that Peter is there, and Job cannot take having killed both Angelo and an innocent Peter, his
Yes,
friend.
this is the last bit of his humanity is for Peter.
Um, and I thought that was like really sweet and pretty cool,
Yeah,
that they
because I don't we
decided to do
didn't
that.
talk about it a lot, but they did have, before he got, power tripped, he did have a good relationship with Peter.
Yeah.
His only true
And
friend, really.
Right.
yeah, totally. So Angelo, or excuse me, Job releases Angelo from his clutches, lets him leave the virtual space, and we see Job frantically just trying every single key to get out of this like digi space that
And
he's
it
in.
just the animations of access denied.
Just
Uh
constantly
uh
going.
yeah, totally. And then uh excuse me, Peter and Angelo, like Angela's like, we got to get out of here, like we need to run, and so they start running through this like very like just total like brutalism landscape that is VSI, because it's all just sheer concrete. um they they like run through, and then they like stop for a second when the bombs start going off, and it's kind of ridiculous because I'm like, why are you like, it's a weird, like, why didn't you well, they just let them get outside before they start going off, but no, they start going off while they're actually still in there. And he like holds Peter real close, and then they finally bust out of the building and stuff. And then as the model's starting to go up in flame, Peter and Angelo have gotten out of there. They're meeting back up with Carla, who like realized that Peter was gone, and we flash back one more quick time to Job, and he finds a back door.
It access granted him, And according to IMDb, it says the moan like eerie sound effect in the access granted scene where Job finds the back door is taken from the scene in The Evil Dead where the evil spirit dies.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
They used
nice.
a little sound bite.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is great. That is fucking amazing.
Really tying that horror in there.
Yeah,
That's pretty much it. That's the plot.
And,
Well, we got.
well, there,
Yes, that's true.
yeah. So
But we
Carla,
gotta we gotta get to that final scene.
yep, Carla and Peter basically accept Angelo as the new husband and father. He's
Which is
great.
stupid. Don't worry
Uh,
about it.
uh, Angelo does tell Peter like straight up Job's dead, because he is essentially to the real world.
He also is going to continue on with his experiments.
Yeah, he also decides that like this was a good idea and I should keep doing this.
And he learned
got some new
nothing.
guinea pigs.
Yeah, he learned nothing. We kind of get like a sweet scene of them all in Angelo's house again, and
Right after
then
he watched his wife be murdered, he just
His
yep, yeah,
adopted a
she's
new
probably
wife.
still dead on the front lawn.
I have a
Um,
feeling this was Angelo's plan all along.
I don't think so. I think this
Hey,
was just.
he's got.
I think this was just him.
Who has everything in
just-
the end? Who has everything in the end? He has a family now. He has a kid. I mean, he's happy. I mean,
I
Reanimator
don't think
motherfucker.
he's happy. I think this was just
oh, you
a
think
weird
he-
ham-fisted way of making them together. I don't know why, but I mean, he's learned nothing. He's going to
No, he
continue his
didn't learn
experiments.
And as
Science
we
must
realize
go
that, as we realize that he's learned nothing and he's going to continue doing these experiments, that is when his phone rings. We zoom out. More houses' phones are ringing. We zoom out again. The entire city's phones are ringing. We zoom out again. Paris's phones are ringing. We zoom out again. The world's phones are ringing, letting
Cyber
us know that
Christ.
Job made it.
Cyber Christ is born.
now
The
Cyber
Amish weren't touched
he
at
lied
all.
though. I want to say Cyber Christ is a liar because he said he would come back to being when all of the phones rung simultaneously at once, but they didn't. One started
Well,
ringing, and then they all started popping off.
Well, then they
I-
all started ringing at
Yeah,
the same
but
time.
yeah, they did. He didn't lie. That's
Semantics.
what happened.
It's
yeah,
I hear
exactly.
a half truth.
Semantics.
Half truths are still a lie.
I mean, there is a point where all the phones are ringing at once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Simple semantics.
Simple semantics. And that's
that
the ending
is-
shot of the movie.
yep.
I ain't letting no person calling them the Cyber Christ get away with semantics.
What
The
you gonna
Bible's full
do?
of semantics.
What you gonna do about it when your phone's ringing and you can't stop it?
Unplug it.
Take out the battery. Yeah.
Landlines. But watch out for
You
those
should've waited.
landlines.
You should've
I
done
can
it in
unplug my
1992.
landline.
They weren't as widespread yet.
Yeah.
So yeah,
He just shot a little
this-
too early.
Yeah,
that
he did.
is Lawnmower Man.
That was the whole plot.
That was the whole plot. There is, the obvious thing we have to mention as this movie was originally presented as Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. So the Lawnmower Man is a short story written by Stephen King, has absolutely no resemblance to this, nothing to do with it. It is short story short. It is about a guy, and the only link is that the main character of the short story is named Harold Parkett, like the abusive father.
Yep.
It's the only way they connected these two things. But in the story, Parkett hires a lawn service after his last lawn service runs over a cat, and he's got to get a new lawn service. So he hires it, and he looks out, and the man mowing his lawn is naked and controlling the lawnmower with his mind and eating the grass behind the lawnmower. Turns out he is a disciple of the god Pan and ends up sacrificing Harold to Pan.
Oh yeah, it's so
That is
sick.
that is
It would have been
that
such a
is all
better.
that is what the story is. So obviously there's no resemblance. So the way that happened is New Line Cinema, um, who they had the rights for a film adaptation to The Lawnmower Man, but they didn't make one. Instead, they took a script called Cyber God and slapped The Lawnmower Man on it to milk Stephen King's name.
Yep,
So
classic.
absolutely nothing to do with the story of The Lawnmower Man. Pretty
Even
much
asked
put
him.
his
Stephen King sued.
Stephen King sued them to
Yep,
just take his name off of it. That's all he asked. Take my name off of this because it's
He
not even
won.
about being bad or good. It's about this is not the story.
Yeah,
This is not what it is.
he
And he
won in
won.
court, but they
He
didn't
won
take it
in
off.
court.
They didn't
Well,
fucking take it off.
they did. He won in court. They didn't take it off, but then they finally did once they were being charged $10,000 a day every day that they did not take it off. So they took it off, but then the VHS release came out and his name was still on it.
ugh,
Oh,
So
you
they
can
t-
put
they
Sleaze.
finally
Sleaze.
took his name off of the theatrical release, and then however many months later when the VHS came out, his name was still right on there.
Yep.
Yep.
They.
Because he
So
wrote and
they
directed
got they got sued out the ass for that. Stephen King got millions and millions of dollars for that. So that is why I still, when you look up this movie, all you see is Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man still connected to this movie.
Yep.
But it is.
I'm sure
nothing
he's
to do
salty
with
about it.
Oh yeah,
Or
for
is this
sure.
a prequel? Or is this a prequel to Maximum Overdrive? And Stephen King actually wrote and directed this in his line.
That, you know what, Stephen King probably would have been cool with that. It's just like, don't misrepresent my property.
Yeah, and who
Because
knows?
Stephen King,
We'll have
he
to.
doesn't care. He doesn't
No,
care
he doesn't.
if movies are good or bad, but the misrepresentation is what he cared about.
Straight line.
Straight lion.
Yep. Some other background for this film too is it's reportedly the favorite movie of the cult leader David Koresh, who was the leader of the religious cult, the Branch Davidians,
I am
which
not
is
surprised
where
on
Waco,
that.
Texas happened. Considering like how much like a man becoming a god is like part of this. I mean, even in the tagline of the movie posters, it says God made him simple, science made him a god. Like,
But they
I
weren't
can
even
see
really
David
science.
Koresh like really digging this.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
let's see. Do you have some more background, Murda?
No, really, the my most important thing to talk about was the Stephen King connection, because as I've mentioned before, I am the massive Stephen King nerd of this show.
And yet you haven't seen Maximum Overdrive. That's shame.
Well, I
Shame.
explained myself I had to pay for it and I couldn't. I need it for free.
Yeah. There was a sequel in 1996 which flopped really hard. Max Headroom actor Matt Fewer took over for Jeff Fahey as Job. Pierce Brosnan
I
was asked to
think
return, but he couldn't because of
I
work
think
on
only the
GoldenEye.
child Peter returned
Yep.
out of all
Yeah.
the actors.
Yep. Also, it took $15 million to make the second film, and it only made $2 million in ticket sales, and it currently has an 11% score on Rotten Tomatoes. So I kind of want to see the sequel just to see how
Yeah, I feel
wild and
like
bad it gets.
we're gonna eventually have to watch the sequel, but this movie did make its money back.
Yeah, it did.
Oh yeah.
It
Well,
did.
they put Stephen King's name on it, so of course it made its money back. Motherfuckers.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel
But
like if they had kept the Cyber God name and marketed it as a sci-fi
that
like.
that totally would have made it. I don't know why they chose to slap Stephen King onto this and do the shit they did, but I mean, it worked for a
It did
while
work.
until they got sued out the ass.
I think they made their money back like triple or something like that. I'm not looking at the figure right now.
$10 million budget, and it earned $32 million in the U.S. alone.
But
So
Yeah, so it made its money
it
back
did
for
well.
sure.
Hmm.
all right.
Critically, I don't think it did well, but financially,
I
it
mean,
made its money.
critically, it's if we're looking at it critically, it's not a good movie. That is
No,
just straight.
Yeah.
right.
But
So the actress Marnie, who's Jenny Wright, or the actress Jenny Wright, who plays Marnie, she actually got like you know how she like goes crazy. She got like super duper sick from the strobe lights in the virtual reality sequence. So like whenever she's like on the thing and like looks sick, she is actually sick.
Oof.
oh man,
Right.
that'd be terrible to
Yeah,
have to go endure.
yeah.
Well, do
Um,
we do we want to go into our final thoughts?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's time for final thoughts. I
okay.
I'll give my rating because I have my rating. It's gonna be a 2.5 out of 5.
Hell of a thing. Hell of a thing.
It's this isn't my cup of tea. It just I like Stephen King, but of course this isn't Stephen King. That's a massive negative against it. It's just the acting is
They
not
got
great.
greedy.
They definitely got greedy. The effects, though it is for the time period pretty revolutionary that they even used as much CGI and computer effects as they did, I still feel that it could have been slightly better if they just spent a more time on it. I feel it was rushed. I still feel it was majorly rushed, and it just that I the plot just it's I don't really care for the story that we get. It's no one learns anything. Nothing really. We watch a mentally handicapped person basically get driven insane and then blamed for what was done to him, which is not okay.
Yes, these are all
So,
valid points.
so it's just it's below average. I didn't hate watching it. I'll definitely watch this again, but it's definitely not something that it's I'm clamoring for or anything like that. It's just something like, oh, how about we watch the fucking Lawnmower Man? Why not? Kind of deal.
All right, 2.5.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll give mine. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I think when the film works, it works. In spite of the terrible acting and terrible direction. Um, I also like want to point out that like for the digital scenes, like any of the VR stuff that they were doing, the director literally told them, I don't even know what you're going to look at. Like the director was like, I don't know what you're looking at, just you're in VR. So like considering how heavily VR is used in this film, like I think they did an okay job with like literally no direction. um
I don't think they had a very strong understanding on like computers and stuff.
No, and one final thing I'm gonna throw in my final thoughts trivia is that the team that did the CGI would go on to become Rockstar San Diego, which is pretty cool. Uh, but just in spite of all that, um, I personally like loved the sequence before it got all like sexual assaulty of him and his girlfriend going into the VR. I thought that was really cool and cute. Um, and I think the thing that drops it down the most for me is the weird choices that Pierce made, as well as just the the further this film goes on, the more and more campy and wild it gets. So like I feel like it started really strong and then it just like
Although, to be fair, it starts with a chimp scene.
yeah, no, but I mean, like, I guess, like, the introduction to Job and, the priest and, uh, what's his name? Terry and, like, the introduction to everyone I felt like was pretty decent, but then, like, there's just there's a lot of, like, weird choices, like, even early on, right? Like, it's kind of like
Right.
foreshadowing the weird choices that are gonna happen later, like with Pierce just like, oh, that kid just got beat up. Oh, not my problem. I'm just gonna keep smoking in bed and pissing my wife off. So like we kind of get like glimmers of like this could be good, and then it just decides to be real wild. I do think that like this film also has like a really strong cult following, which I think is pretty cool. So
All
for me,
right.
3.
Spooge, do you want me to go or you got thoughts?
Hold on, I need
Oh, I can say
Starfish
mine.
to clarify. 3 or 3.5?
It's a 3.
Just a solid 3, because you said 3.5 at the beginning.
I think you said 3.
I said 3.
I could have
He said
swore you
3.
said 3.5, but I guess I'm mistaken.
I
I
don't
think
know,
No,
you
you
said
are.
man.
3.
I'm pretty sure I said
Fucking
3, but I'm
dare
not sure. It's a
Fucking
3
dare
either
you,
way.
Smokey.
3 is
Okay.
final thought.
Gaslighting.
Okay, it's a good thing I'm clarifying.
Goddamn gaslight. For me, I would say it probably actually giving it a little higher than I would, except it kind of hinges, and this will be a little callback to anybody who's seen our old reviews. Always goes back to how I rated one movie, and that movie was Willy's Wonderland, in which I actually think that this movie took more risks and was actually a lot more interesting than. But I kind of have, I feel like I kind of have the same enjoyment. I mean, like Nicolas Cage is what makes Willy's Wonderland, but it's like all it really has. And it's some of the same ways. I think this could have gone farther too, with some of the kills. I think maybe honestly just like 2 of the kills I kind of was a little disappointed with. But what else? What else? What else? I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, I like the concept of like the evolution, like basically someone starting from a low intelligence and like go. It's hard to do because I mean it's definitely like I can't say that this was done tastefully. I mean,
No.
it's always hard when you have someone who isn't, uh, you know, and is kind of representing a vague stereotype. It's not like he's a, actually like full on going for a specific type of mental handicap. It's sort of just like, oh, that's just the simple, he's simple, or the R slur is what they kind of
Yeah.
like generalized it for
What
like a
they
lot of different things.
what they parodied on Tropic Thunder, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes. But still the concept of like a low intelligence, I feel like I was a little bit more interested in that with the chimp. So, that I feel like Roscoe, I don't know, like I know that's not this what this film was gonna be, but I kind of would rather just like a full Roscoe movie of like a chimpanzee gaining like human intelligence like that. Uh, I I feel like that would have been cooler, but everything would be better with chimps. But 3.5, I'd still watch this again. It's the camp in it's great. I never am annoyed by it, and yeah, it's interesting visuals, even if they're not perfect, and it's a product of its time, definitely.
So 3.5 for you?
Mm.
Nice. So I guess I'm last, and I will say this is my sci-fi September pick. This is our closing out, our transition into October, which will of course have to be horror. Um, I think I will give this a 3. Um, I also hear an echo on somebody, just saying. Um, I thought this movie was gonna be a lot worse than it was. And I'm not saying this movie is a good movie. It's not. This movie's not a good movie. But I thought it was going to be so much worse than it was. I thought the portrayal of a mentally challenged man was going to be a lot more disrespectful. And that's not to
Yeah.
say it was accurate or it wasn't problematic.
It was no eating Gilbert Grape, that's for sure.
Right. I just thought
No.
for the time I have seen much worse, much more disrespectful portrayals. So I was actually pleasantly surprised for the time that it wasn't just egregious, like it wasn't just awful. Um, I mean these effects, they're not good, and this movie is very dated. But I'm a bigger like forgiver of that than I think a lot of people are. That doesn't Bad CGI doesn't bother me as much as it does other people, especially when it's not current. I can forgive it a lot more than this looking like this in 2023. What was I gonna say? Yeah, three. I really liked the like Starfish said, the VR scenes were just really fun for me. Just very interesting to watch. The concept was interesting. They did really go for something here, though I do have to dock points for just not leaning full into some of the horror that they were trying to do. I don't understand why they were so restrained, which was frustrating. But overall, I really enjoyed it. And I think that we have, me, Starfish, and Spooge also have the benefit of usually watching these movies in a room together, and we feed off of each other's energy and laugh a lot with these movies,
Yeah.
which enhances enjoyment. And then I find myself having a hard time, being as harsh as I maybe should on movies. Um, that being said, just regarding our last recording of Flash Gordon, I gave it a question mark 3. I am officially saying 2.5 for Flash Gordon.
Oh.
And I think Timothy Dalton called me a lying bitch for that.
Lying bitch.
But that's okay.
Oh.
But that's
I did do it.
that's okay. Because I enjoyed this movie more than Flash Gordon. So I'm ranking it a 3, but it's got to be higher than Flash Gordon. So Flash Gordon, you got bumped. You got bumped.
Ooh.
Damn.
All right, so I think we're good. I think we done it. I think we did it. I think I can get into the outro.
Yes.
If you've been listening this long, thank you so much. Please like, comment, and share the video around. Subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell if you don't mind. Does anybody have a sign off?
The alternate title for this movie could have been Flowers for Aldertron. And if you know, you know. If you know, you know.
Yeah. I do too.
You go.
By the year 2001, there won't be a person on this planet who isn't hooked into it and hooked into me.
Dang. You know what? That's blasphemy. The only cyber god I worship is Hantayuni.
Hey, and respect and pay your grass man.
Yeah,
Hey, the grass man.
Give him a tip. Give him some lemonade.
Hey,
Give him
hey,
some
yeah.
lemonade.
Give him a nice little tip.
Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me.
Alright, so this will be a bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Till next time.
Well, accidents happen. That's all there is to it.
2 bizarre accidents in one night.
Accidents?
You were just calling them murders.
Oh, no. We'll just file a routine report. Just clean and tidy.